Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. And from our studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, Mr. David Williams. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 18th day of July, 2013. A quick look at the numbers. The Dow is up 100 points. S&P is up 9. Comp is up 7. Gold is up $5.50, and crude up $1.26. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke back on Capitol Hill again today, answering questions. You know, he looks good. Ben, you look good. He's not sweating. Doesn't. I have more worry lines than this guy, and he's got a lot bigger financial issues to deal with than I do. Although things are relative, right? My issues are every bit as important to me as his issues are to him. I had a boss years ago. I would sit in his office and whine about, you know, my financial woes, and he used to love to tell me how the only difference between me and the Rockefellers were the amount of zeros involved. And somehow that never quite took, but his point was, yeah, they got problems too. They got issues. They got bills to pay. I go, well, yeah, but they also have more money in the bank, and he would go, yeah, right. The only difference is the zeros. So anyway, happy Thursday. We had a great class yesterday afternoon. For those who are on the free trial, if you were in the class yesterday afternoon, well, then you know we had a good class. If you're on the free trial and by chance somehow you weren't able to make it to the class, you know, the 30-minute class that runs about 2 hours, that one. Yesterday we got audio and video, okay? Monday we just made a podcast. Halfway through I realized I should have turned the video on as well. Yesterday we captured it all. So if you're on the free trial and you weren't able to make it to that class, send me an email, support@cfrn.net. Let me know, and my plan is to get that video uploaded. It's going to go into a special library for folks who are on the free trial in the future. And during the free trial, folks will have access to those videos. And I'll probably create a couple of new ones each and every week. Once you become a partner, okay, you also will have access to that library, because there will be some basic things, some elementary things that we cover that, you know, I want you to have a firm foundation. And so sometimes it's not a bad idea. Just like you heard me say yesterday, that here it was 4, 5, 6 years, whatever the case, let's call it 5 years later, I was going back and reading and listening to some of Mike Reed's stuff. Some of the stuff that really set my feet on the right path a number of years ago. And I built on that, but I wanted to go back to ground zero, okay? And revisit that to see if maybe I missed something. Because now I have eyes that see and ears that hear. I might pick up on some things I wasn't able to pick up on then, because my mind was clouded with so many filters, you know. And guess what? I did. You've heard me say many times that the book that I recommend so often on this radio program, I have for years, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. This is a book. I wrote about it on the blog last night, by the way. This is not a book that offers you some method for trading the markets. There's no indicators, no oscillators, no nothing. You're like, well, then that's not a book about trading. Oh, very much a book about trading. It's about thinking in probabilities. And the reason so many traders don't rush out to buy the book and read it, even though it's recommended to them, is because they find out that there's not something in the book that they can immediately pull up a chart and translate into money. Okay? This is part of that firm foundation. I go back periodically and I reread sections of that book that spoke to me in a very profound way. And I also visit areas of the book that maybe didn't speak to me in such a profound way, because I'm thinking, okay, if this area over here is so profound, this area here may have something that I just wasn't ready for at the time. You've probably heard the statement, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Have you heard that? I think that has its roots in perhaps Zen philosophy. But think about that. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Interestingly enough, I had lunch with Mark this past Saturday. Great guy. I mean, I've talked about him for years, and I only knew him through his book, through the written word. I had never had a conversation or a cup of coffee with him before. We've had a number of conversations now, and really a very interesting guy. And meeting him did not in any way detract from any of the value of the book. Sometimes in life, when we meet our quote-unquote heroes, or those we look up to, we come face to face with the fact that they're just a man like me. And so a lot of the mystery, or not mystery, but a lot of the allure falls away. I'm glad that, and this book is part of that, I didn't have any unrealistic expectations for him. I didn't expect him to walk on water or to leap tall buildings in a single bound. I expected him to be an ordinary guy based upon the very things that he wrote about. The other book that I recommend, and there's only really, well, there's 3 books I recommend. I recommend Mike Reed's book, Read the Greed, Take the Money. I recommend Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, and Steve Bigelow's High Profit Candlestick Patterns. Those are the only 3. Those are the only books I've ever recommended on this radio program, and I still recommend those 3. I think that right there is a complete trader's library. I really do. And so Steve Bigelow's book, High Profit Candlestick Patterns, I went back and reread sections of that book. Now, this is a book that does have charts. It does have pictures. I read it until the pages. In fact, there's a picture on our blog of my copy. And by the way, Steve, if you're out there, you promised to send me not only a new copy of the old book, but a copy of the new book, because my old book, the pages have literally fallen out. I've got them all in order, tucked inside of the binder. But I've dragged that book all over the place. When I would take my son to swimming lessons, I'd be reading it by the pool. When I would take him to karate lessons, I'd be sitting there with all the moms and dads in the dojo. They're doing their thing, and I'm studying chart patterns. I know, kind of boring, right? And occasionally I'd put the book down and cheer my son on. Say, great job, and then go back to looking at charts. But anyway, I said all that because according to my schedule, I'm supposed to fill the first 10 minutes with busy talk. Looks like I ran 3 minutes over, so. What are we going to do next? Oh, if you're new to this radio program, welcome. Glad to have you. I'm going to go through some charts here in just a moment. If you can't see my charts, that means you're not fully logged in yet. If you've got the audio, you're halfway there. There are charts, and there is a way that you can participate in the program, participate in the discussion, and ask questions of our panel of experts. Just go to the home page of CFRN.net, and on the right-hand side of the page, click the great big microphone. That'll take you to the page where you get registered. Everyone registers once a month. After you register, you'll have access to the charts and the chat room, the chat box. Now, every day going forward till the end of the month, you'll get an email that says the show starts at noon. Click here when you're ready to join. So it makes joining the program each day quite easy. Come August 1st, we'll all register again for the month of August, okay? So that's how that works. Michael is on vacation with his family at the Cape. However, he's still coming into the live trading room and trading every day. Let me say we had a great day in the live trading room. In fact, we did get our points. It took about 50 minutes today. It's not a race. The reason we measure the amount of time that it takes to get the points is because we believe that goals, and we are big believers in goals, we believe that you should have goals that are definable, measurable, and doable. Okay? And so that 2 points a day, that's well defined. Okay? Nothing ambiguous about that. It's not, well, we just want to make some money today. Where's that arrow going to land? 2 points defines the goal. The amount of time it took us to get there measures the goal. And I said the third thing was it has to be doable, achievable, attainable. Well, 2 and 3 kind of meld together there. All right? All right. So each day when Michael is here, which is actually there in Boston, I'm in Phoenix, he's in Boston. Our other co-hosts, David from Page Trader and Robin, the trading coach, they are from Las Vegas. We'll be going to them later in the program to talk about the markets. Also, manning the trading desk in Chicago is Bert Schlichter. He may pop in. He may not. We've been trying to put a bell on that cat so when we know when he's there and when he's not there. If you're participating in the program today or any day, anything that you type into the chat box, the only person who can see what you type is myself or Bert. He's our broker. Okay? If Michael were here, he could see what you type. We do that for a reason. We want to give you a degree of privacy and anonymity if you want it. Now, we know who likes to kind of have their name thrown out there because you're a regular participant in the program. But sometimes new people who are maybe, not quite up to speed on all that we do, it could be that maybe, you don't want your name out there. So we respect that, all right? And we do the best to honor that for you, all right? Good word for the day. That's kind of where we start. Then we go to the charts. After the charts, we do the recap, and the recap is where we walk through every single trade that took place during that day's live trading room. Now, we're running a day behind because of the fact that Michael's on vacation, and so this morning he made a recap of yesterday's live trading room, and I'll play that video here, or at least part of it, in just a few moments. Once we finish that, then we'll head out to Las Vegas to talk to David and Rodman. Our good word for the day, a lifestyle that brings prosperity, comes from Thur John 1:2. Beloved, I pray that in all respects you may prosper and be in good health, just as your soul prospers. Thur John 1:2. Now, the Bible presents this powerful truth. God wants us to prosper and be in good health. However, many people read and even believe this promise, but still wonder how to make it happen. How do we experience prosperity and health? John's letter describes how this prosperity is a byproduct of a life that is pleasing to God. Now, you have to grasp that. Biblical prosperity is a byproduct of a life that is pleasing to God. It flows from a life that is motivated by love and committed to walking in truth. It radiates from those who recognize that we can hinder or even stop the flow of God's blessings into our life when we disobey Him or we become dominated by pride. Pride goeth before a fall. God loves a humble man. A man who humbles himself will be exalted by God. A man who exalts himself, sure is painful. we see how prosperity and health can be associated with those who have a strong commitment to evangelism, to those who seek to help others, and those who use their gifts to fulfill their role in fostering the health and growth of the body. That's from Ephesians 4:15. The fivefold gifts, read that. If you want to experience prosperity and health, we need to be very careful about who we allow to influence our lives. Now, this extends to TV, radio, movies, neighbors, people we hang out with. There's a theory that you become the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is a study. I think there's even a book written about the study. Now think about that. You become the sum total of the five people you spend the most time with. Is that true or not? I don't know. I do know that the people we hang out with, the people we spend time with, do have a powerful impact and influence on our life. You know, you might have that one friend you hang around with who kind of has some rough language, and by the end of the fishing trip, you know, you might be letting a few this ones and that ones slip a little bit. Your language might crude up a little bit. I'm not trying to be a prude here. I'm just using that as an example, okay? All right, let's move on. All right, we got to be careful who we allow to influence our lives. We should seek to develop relationships with mature believers who live according to biblical standards. Again, this doesn't mean we have to become Amish. I got nothing against the Amish. Don't mean to offend any Amish folk that might be in our audience today, all right, or listening to this podcast 10 years from now when the church says it's okay for you to listen to podcasts. I'm just trying to make a point. Not being prudish, not trying to be backward. It's trying to be realistic. We also must be mindful of the things we do with our time, our talent, and our treasure. We should be good stewards of God's blessings and consistently invest these resources in His kingdom. Remember, it's His money. We're just managers. We're just stewards. I think of myself as a fund manager, and it's His fund, not mine. If you want to experience prosperity and health, learn to follow God's plan. Believe it or not, as chaotic as our lives seem at times, we need to find that quiet time to reflect on the fact. We need to be still and know that He is God and realize that He does have a plan for our life. It may not match up with our plan, but He has a plan, and it's a good plan. In Jeremiah, He says, I know the plans I have for you. He says they're good plans. I want to know those plans. I really do. It says those who diligently seek Him will be rewarded. So we know what we got to do. If you want to experience prosperity and health, I'm going to say it again, learn to follow God's plan for your life. Seek to walk in truth, know and obey His word, be filled with the Holy Spirit and motivated by love. Cultivate relationships with godly people and be faithful to fulfill your role. Develop a burden for souls and a commitment to evangelism. And last but not least, friend, humble yourself before God and repent of any pride in your life. Always remember this. God has blessed you so that you might bless others. And that's our good word for the day. And with that, let's go to the chart. The chart I have up is the S&P 500 E-mini futures. Hey, Bert, are you out there? I got your message, Pete. As soon as he pops in, I will get a message to him for you, okay? Or you can call him toll-free, 866-928-3310. He'll pick up if you call. Leslie might pick up. If she does, just ask for him and he'll pop on the phone. In fact, he's probably hearing me right now, but he's on a call and he can't actually speak to me. 866-928-3310. All right, S&P 500 E-mini futures. This is an hourly chart, and thank goodness something finally happened so I can show you something different on the chart. We've been stuck in that congested little range now for a few days. I'm going to back up just a wee bit. Okay, let's get back into Sunday night. Sunday night, we had, the 14th was Sunday night. We had a tweet to be long above 1671. We got a 3 3/4 point swing. The complete swing ended up being 6 3/4 points. Now, price was stopped at last week's highest weekly trading zone, 1678.79. And thank goodness I finally get to take that off the chart. I've had it on the chart all week because first, that was the high of the week, so I left last week's zone there to kind of mark the territory. We then came back. We retraced to this week's zone at 1674 or 75/76. That's this zone right here. See, we retraced to this area right here. Okay. We actually pulled back initially here. You see the tail, and then we get the move back up. And so now we've got a double top. Remember, this is an hourly chart. We got a double top up in this zone. We come back down to test this weekly trading zone at 1670/71. We go sideways. We're prepared to go short the S&P below 65 if that happens. It never happened. We then put a tweet out to consider being long above 1672. Okay, that's when price got down here. Well, we banged into 72 and we came back to the zone, and banged into 72 and came back to the zone, and banged into 72 and came back to the zone. We never could make it below 68. Why is that? Look left, young man. We had a tweet last week to be long above 68. 68 was a very important number. How do we know it was important? Because price broke through it and pulled back to it. Broke through it and pulled back to it. Broke through it and pulled back to it. Rallied, and this time didn't make it quite all the way back. That was the signal that we were heading higher, and that's what's led us into this week, which, by the way, today we have new all-time highs in the S&P, the Dow. The NASDAQ hit a new 13-year high. The S&P 500 is now worth more than $15 trillion. And after David and Robin come on the show, I'm going to show you exactly what $1 trillion looks like. I've got a great picture for you. An infographic is what they call it. All right, so here we are. We bounce up to this area one more time. So now we've got a triple top. 1, 2, 3. We've got a tweet out to be long above 72. Price runs up, get a nice 8-point move. Price pulls back to test the important area. Now, 72 is important because look at that resistance. We just could not get through it. Finally broke through, and what do? We pull right back to it. Isn't that kind of amazing? A little fascinating. The magnetic qualities that prices and areas have on the chart. Now, I don't take credit. I didn't create that. I didn't make that happen. I just notice it, and that's what fascinates me, is that it even happens. But it does. Day after day, week after week, just go look at our charts, either on the blog or on Facebook or on Twitter. There's a couple years of stuff. There's multiple years of stuff out there that you can go and just kind of be amazed by. Not by my talent or ability, not at all. No, I'm asking you to look at the geometry that's built into the market. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with Mike Reed. This is stuff that's, I would have to say, it's when God created the heavens and the earth, he somehow built this in, okay? This geometry that, I mean, man created the markets, but there was something already there that's a lot bigger than man. So, and we're able to catch glimpses of it. Will we ever fully understand it? I don't know. I think if we looked at it head on, it would probably blind us. So it's just like every now and then out of the corner of our eye, we catch a little glimmer, a little flash. And that's what we're seeing here. 72 is very important, very important. We get a run up to a known area of resistance, right back for support, little bounce, back, and off we go. Okay, a little double bottom going on right here. So then we had a tweet to consider being long above 1681. We put that out way back over here. And I said yesterday on the show, I said, guys, we've got a tweet to be long above 81 and one to be short below 65. I said, until one of those are triggered, I'm not going to put any more tweets out on the S&P 500. It's just too congested, too constricted. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, thank goodness. We broke above 81 today. We made a run up to our next weekly trading zone. And now that that's happened, okay, I'm going to get this thing off of this chart. Been bugging me all week that I had to leave it there. Now it's gone. All right. From zone to zone. That's a little more normal. That's we know how to deal with that. What's price going to do now? Chances are, you know, I'm not into predicting the future, but chances are, based on what we've seen over the last, since I've been trading, a few years, since 05, 06. I was seeing it in 05 and 06. I just didn't realize, I didn't understand what I was seeing. I've gone back and looked. The same thing was happening. I just didn't realize it. Chances are price is going to come back here to test this important area at 81. Why? Why is it going to do that? I don't know. It just will. And then it'll give us another trading opportunity, most likely, to get long back up to test this zone again. Did we finally put in a new all-time high in the futures? Why, yes, we did. Now, the S&P cash, we've been putting in new highs there, but the futures, we haven't. So the swing high today, 1688.50. The previous swing high, previous swing high was 85.75. Today's swing high, 88.50. Wait a minute. Swing high, 85.75. Let me make sure I got this right. 85.75. 88.50. Okay. All right, so we really did put in a new high. I just want to make sure. I think it's tricky sometimes, but there. It's clear as day, right? Okay. So that takes care of the S&P 500, really. We're consolidating now at this weekly trading zone. That's what we would expect to happen. See, right here at this zone, we spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hours consolidating. We still had to back up, find some support, some buyers that were willing to commit to this thing, and then we were able to punch through that zone. And once we punch through a zone, what do we expect to happen? Expect to go to the next zone. But before we can do that, we got to take care of any obstacles that are in our path. Well, we had an obstacle that the market created right here at 1680.50. That's why we're getting long at 81. Got to make sure we cleared this area. And I'm cutting it pretty close there, but I had to because the distance between the zones, look, there's only 10 points zone to zone here. And from 81 to 86, that's only a 5-point move, but hey, it's 5 points, so we'll take it. All right. Enough of that. Real quick, let me show you what happened with the soybeans. We had a tweet out on the soybeans last night. Soybeans said, consider being short below 1273. Put that out here. 1273. Okay. So far today, the swing low is 1259. So what is that? 14 cents that the market made available. Now again, we didn't make it available. The market made it available. We just had a tweet out there that said consider being short below 1273. So if you were able to participate in that, there was 14 points of movement, or pennies, and 1 penny in the beans is equivalent to 1 point in the S&P. Okay? So that entire move is 14 times 50 per contract. But chances are you didn't trade it stem to stern. Chances are you used the slingshot or some method to take something out of this. However, using the slingshot, we never have to risk more than 8 ticks participate in any trade during the day session, or even the evening session for that matter, as long as you're utilizing the slingshot to time your entry. On these bigger picture trades, sometimes you'll use one of our other tools or a little different method to get into the trade. Okay? When you do those types of things, though, typically you have to embrace a little more risk. All right? So the beans, man, they just, if you go to our other site, one of our other sites, soybeandaytrader.com, last year we were trading November beans, and man, they were just beautiful. Then we got so busy, I stopped posting on that site and tweeting soybean trades for months. Well, I still tweeted a few trades, but I just didn't have time to post them. I got started again here a couple weeks ago, and since we started back up, well, you can go look at the site. The results have been every bit as good as they were last year. This year, for the remainder of this, I'm just going forward, I'm going to do my very best to tweet and document soybean trade, because we want to see, I mean, we know that these November beans, 2 years running, have been very good to us, been very tradable. Okay, we want to see if this can apply to the entire year. We're not farmers, okay? We're not seasonal type traders, but if we can adapt our technical methods to this grain market, we've proven that we can do
that
it.
Little piece.
We've
Oh,
proven,
no.
David? Let me mute David's mic. No, he just muted it himself. Okay. So we've proven that November beans trade very well. We're gonna work these next 10 months, 11 months, so that we can have a full year to report on and to show you, and that you can trade along with us, okay? Because we make that available. All right, one last chart to show you, and that would be the bonds. Okay, last night our signal for the bonds was yesterday we had a nice trade on the bonds. The information was here. It told you when to take your profits and all of that. This last night, oh, we got to go here to get the full trade set up. Let me find it. Okay. Consider being long above 135.18 or short below 134.13, whichever presents first. Okay? I don't think that's the, is that the trade? $135. No, that's not last night's trade. I gotta find last night's. I had it highlighted and then my chart moved on me. Oh, here we go. Here's last night's trade, 17 hours ago. Okay. All right. Consider being long above 136.07, a short below 135, whichever presents first. Now, we spent a lot of time mapping this whole thing out with guys in the after show. So here, the top of this box is 135. Okay. Actually, the top of the box is really 135.03. That's the top of this box. Remember, we said we would trade from the top of the box to the bottom of the box, or from the bottom of the box to the top of the box. So what's happened so far? Now, you don't have to stay in the whole trade. You can, I mean, this thing's going to oscillate back and forth. It's going to channel back and forth because that's just what markets do. But the swing low so far has been 134.19. Now, this is kind of, it's so hard to figure these beats. There's 32 ticks in a point. So if you go 32 minus 19, That's 13. So there was 13. The market made 13 ticks available so far, times 31.25. $406 per contract. That's what the market has made available so far, based off of the recommendation or the suggestion or the idea to be short the top of this box, 135. Now from the top of the box, we're actually looking for price to go to the bottom of the box. If it does, that'll be a total of 51 ticks. I shaved a couple off the top, so it's going to be roughly 50 ticks, you know, if we go the distance, all right, which will be about $1,500 per contract. I may not have calculated that right, because this right here, I'll have to go back and recalculate that. Because from the swing low so far is 134.19. And the entry was 135. Okay. If you're not following us on Facebook, you should. Go there, like us, follow us, be a friend. I post everything now there first. That automatically tweets it for me, and then I hit the Seeking Alpha page, and it's like a domino effect. When I post, all these other things fall into place. So, I mean, you can follow us anywhere along the way, but if you want to catch it when it first hits the wire, and it's all pretty instantaneous, but if you want to catch it immediately when it first hits, then follow on the Facebook, all right? Because you can put a Facebook app on your phone. There's a lot of ways you can be alerted to something, I think, almost as quickly as Twitter. Twitter's another great way. You just put the app on your phone or enable your phone for push notifications. So great tweet in the S&P, great tweet in the soybeans, and a great tweet in the bonds. So it's been just a, you know, this week has been the markets have been very kind to us this week. Let's just say that. All right, we're going to pop in for a few minutes here on the recap. We're going to watch this and see if it'll come back here and test this 81, give us another long trade on the upside. We're going to watch the recap for a few minutes, then I'm going to pause it, then we're going to go to Vegas, and then after Vegas, we'll finish up the recap. All right? So stand by. I think I've got everything loaded up properly today. We'll soon find out.
Day is gold, since we have gold in front of us here. Let's do yesterday. This was this morning. We're going to go back to yesterday. And we had just a few trades on gold yesterday. Gold was all over the place yesterday. It's probably going to be again today, too. We'll probably have a lot of movement on gold today. We already had a lot of movement. But let's see, starting at 9:30, which is right here. All right, starting out right here. Well, first let me go through the results. On gold, we had +9 ticks. On the Russell, we had +6 ticks. On soybeans, we had +2 ticks. On crude oil, we had +19 ticks. And on copper, we had +20 ticks. We have my spreadsheet. I do this the same way every day. All right. 2 on the beans. Sorry. Yeah, 2 on the beans, 6 on the Russell, 19 on crude, 9 on gold, and 20 on copper. That was our day yesterday. Okay. For those of you guys who were in the partners hour, we had 5 on crude, 10 on gold, and 4 on copper. All right. Yesterday it took us 37 minutes and 3 trades to get our 2-point equivalent, 2 ES point equivalent, or $100 a contract, and we took 13 trades during the day yesterday. We are currently at $3,215 per contract in the live trading room for the month of July. Okay, 32.15 for the month of July. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go to www.cfrn.net/apply. Sign up for the free trial. In the free trial, you get 5 business days, 5 luxurious business days in our live trading room. And thanks. Okay, you get 5 luxurious business days in our live trading room, and access to everything that we have. This down close right here on gold is a short trade at 1283.0 and 1283.0. I'm short at 83.1. I just jumped in on the pullback. There it is right there. 83.1 is the short. Stop at break even. And that just stopped me out at break even. Ick. I still like this trade though. You're looking for the green line to get down into the cycle. If you get the green line to work its way down into the cycle. All right. Let me mark that. 83.1 to 83.1. All right. If we don't put in a lower swing right here, this is bottoming action. We need to put in the lower swing. It's bottoming action because the green line did not get down into the cycle. Okay. Sorry, I was on my whole thing about what you get. You get five luxurious days in our live trading room. You get to watch me put trades on, take trades off, win trades, lose trades, the whole thing. You get access to all our charting platform, all our indicators, and the charting platform. You'll be sent an email that has a video in it that shows you how to download. Shows you how to download the charting platform. Shows you how to install the indicators from the indicator store, and it even brings you to a layout. Now, the layout that it brings you to may be quite old, so when you get to that point, if you want, just email us at support@cfrn.net and ask me for the most recent layout, and I'll send it to you. Just follow the instructions in that video to import the layout. Don't try to open the layout. You need to import it, not open it. Okay? That's it. All right. This is gold. This was gold yesterday. Our first trade on gold was right in here. I believe we had 6 ticks profit on that. 5 ticks profit. I don't know. I think we had some profit here on gold on the first trade. What it was, there was one opportunity in here that we didn't take. It looks like it was a shorting opportunity right in here that we didn't take. Another one right here that we missed. We grabbed this one. It was off the BBC. And a bullish cross, tested the BBC with an up close with bullish divergence. We took some profit on that. We missed the follow-up trade right over here. All right, for that nice move up right there. Over here, we took a little profit on the down close below the trend line. We did it again right here on the down close below the trend line. You can see that the cycle is blue down here, so we needed that down close below the trend line. I'm going to throw this picture up here really quickly. These are the rules, okay? I remade the pictures that I used to have. I just made it so it's easier to see. Step 1, the MA1 crosses below. Slide it over. Step 1, the MA1 crosses below, which is right here. Step 2, price pulls away, which is right there. Step 3, for a short trade, you draw a trend line up the bottoms, okay, which I did here, and I did here. And you look for a close down below the trend line. All right, for a short trade, that's step 4. The price must give you a down close below the trend line, which happened there, and it happened there. And always, always look for the divergence down here on the bottom. Okay, there's just a tiny bit of divergence on this one. There was a lot of divergence on this one and on this one. All right, so I went short there, I went short there, and I went short there yesterday. Those were all trades in gold. That was it for the morning session. Okay, that was it for the morning session on the gold. Currently, gold, oops, sorry guys. Currently on the gold, I drew in that box. I said it needs to get down below that box. It still hasn't done that. Okay, it still hasn't gotten down below that box. This is bottoming action right here. It needs to break through that box. If it breaks through the box, we should see probably a big move down. If it doesn't break through the box, then it's going to change directions and it's going to move up. Okay. Let's see the Russell yesterday. Let's get into that one. Yesterday, Russell. We didn't have a ton of trades in the Russell either. There it is right there, 3 trades. Same thing here, it's just the opposite, right? When price is moving so fast with so much momentum, it doesn't pull all the way back down to the BVC. You have to draw a trend line in, okay? In here, again, step 1 is to cross at the MA1, right here. MA1 over the BVC. Step 2, price pulls away. Step 3, you have to draw a trend line down the tops now because it's a long trade. So down the tops. And step 4, you look for an up close above that trend line. And you get long on the up close. Always looking for divergence down here between the green line and the cycle in the slingshot. Okay, always looking for divergence down there. So we did that once there, and we did it again there. We missed one here. Looks like it changed directions on us. We missed this in here. Okay, there would have been a short trade right here. Okay. We took a trade here where we had lost 8 ticks. All right, we got long on the up close right here. It's topping action, stopped us out, and it changed directions. All right, and that was it for us on the Russell yesterday. Okay, I'm going to slide the Russell back over. Did the Russell ever give that long trade up this morning? Not yet. I had drawn this trend line about 10 minutes ago, and it still is not giving up that. The gold, you can see, is still struggling over here. Okay. So far on gold, I believe we're plus 3 ticks on the gold from the 2 trades that we took so far in this pre-market fund. Now let's, why do I have 3 trades marked on it? Did I take 3 trades? I guess I did 3 trades. This was the first trade right here. And then we took that one break even and that one break even. All the break even trades have gone at least 4 ticks. Nothing to reminder. I remember. All right, Russell just closed up above it at 43.6 on the Russell. Did you guys trading it? It's at the high of the day right there. 43.7 is the high of the day. Let me show you that. All right, there's not much divergence, not much room to run, but it's an up close above the trend line. Okay, and the Russell's just been going pretty much straight up since we had the good news this morning. And there it goes. All right, so it's already closed above the MA1. So here's the trade. Okay, stops at break even on the thing, and I'm out at break even. But you see it went from 43.7 up to 44.2. Okay, it went from 43.7 up to 44.2. My entry was at 43.7, not 43.6. So there was 5 ticks profit potential in the trade for me. Okay, hang on, I just got to mark that trade. All right. That was it for that. Soybeans yesterday. Let's find our soybean chart. Okay. Yesterday's soybeans. Looks like we took 1 trade on soybeans. Here it was right here. All right. On the soybeans yesterday, we had an up close above the trend line right here. And you guys see I'm applying this rule set right here and this one right here to every single market that we trade. All the markets are the same. You use the same indicators, the same rules on all the markets. All right, we're using the same time frame. It's a 4-tick range chart. So every bar on every chart is 4 ticks high. Everything is the same all the time. Okay. It's just the way we roll. All right, so yesterday we took 1 tick profit on this soybean trade. We got long on the up close above the trend line right there. And once we had 4 ticks profit in the trade, we moved our stop up to break even. It came back down, took us down to break even. Okay. Let's jump into the crude oil right here. All right. Now, crude is starting to move a little bit right now. NQ. The NQ gave the up close right here. Okay, so the NQ is still working right here from that spot a little while ago. Crude oil is setting up right now. All right. You see you have your divergence down here. Now you need this bar to close down and this bar to close up. So far, this bar has got a low of 04, it's got a high of 08. So if it's going to close up, it's going to be at 107.08. If it's going to close down like it just did, then we're going to start drawing the trend line over again. That becomes a swing high. Okay, and you got to adjust your trend line to be like that. All right. So now we need an up close above this trend line. An up close above this trend line is what we need. Okay. We have a low of this bar, low on this bar, 106.97, a high of 17.01. So it'll be the next bar. It won't be this bar. Okay. I'm just going to let this crude play out right here for a minute before I go over the actual crude trades from yesterday. I'll do the copper trades from yesterday. Okay. I'll jump to copper because I'm actually watching the current price on crude. Now we need an up close on this bar. An up close on this bar, 701 is the low, 705 would be the high. How do I know that? Every bar is the same size. Every single bar is the same size. All right, so 705 is going to be the high. That's got all 4 ticks range in it. It's got a low of 01, 4 ticks higher. It's got a high of 05. So if it's going to close up, it didn't. Okay, it didn't close up, it closed down. So now you have to adjust the trend line like that. All right. We still need an up close above this bar. So far, this bar's got a low of 0, 0. It'll have a high right at the trend line of 04. I'm not going to take that. Okay. Over here on copper, we have a couple of trades that I took yesterday in a lot of trading room on copper. These were in the pre-market, and this was yesterday during the copper right here. We had the bearish cross. I drew the trend line. We had down close below the trend line. I shorted right there. Okay, wait, back over here. 701 on the crude. 705 would be the high. Okay, I'll take that if it closes up there. Okay, I'm in at 705. I'm in at 705 on the crude. All right, now we'll manage that as I finish going through the copper. What we anticipate here is that the green line is going to move up into the cycle. Okay, the green line will move up into the cycle right here. All right, that's what we're anticipating. Now, because it's also at the high of the day, 708 right here, this is the high of the day. If we break through that high of the day, I think we're going to have a big run on our hands. There we go, stops at break even on the crude trade. Actually, I'm just going to lock in a little 1 tick right there. The green line is up into the cycle, so I'm trailing my stop very close. All right, I have 4 ticks locked in right here, 705, and I'm out with 4 ticks profit on the crude. Okay.
And that's where we're going to pause it right now. We're going to head out to Las Vegas, Nevada, talk to David Williams from Page Trader and Miss Robin Dane, the trading coach. Let me get my computer switched back around, get the monitors going in the right direction. That's always a challenge. Come on. Let go. There you go. Finally released it. All right, so we're going to pause that, and then at the end of the radio program, there's about about 6 minutes left. Okay, let me get that thing paused. It's still playing in the background. All right, we'll play the final 6 minutes towards the end of the radio program today. Probably between the end of the radio program and the after show, we'll play it right then. Okay, so if you want to catch the rest of that, I paused it right where it was, so just stick around, and we'll get to that. Tonight is partners meeting, 9 p.m. When you're on the free trial, you have access to everything except the video training library and the partners meeting. Okay? The video training library has 250 hours of actual live trading in real markets with real money in front of real people. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The trades that get stopped out don't get swept under the carpet. They get marked up, highlighted, archived, right along with the good ones. Okay, that's just how we roll, all right? It's how everybody should roll, I think. And I think more and more today people are, because the consumer, today's consumer is so much more educated than the consumer of yesteryear, okay? And so vendors, educators, whatever label you want to hang on, those of us who sit on the side of the desk, I guess, and those names aren't always flattering ones, I suppose. I'm glad that the consumer is more educated. We've done our very best to educate the consumer. And David often will share, tips and tidbits and hints with you to help you be a more educated consumer. And by consumer, I just mean someone who wants to get into trading, who's intrigued by trading, who likes the idea of trading. You're fascinated by the markets. You want to get in there and get involved and learn how to trade, and possibly someday do that as your primary source of income. All right? Well, the road to Wall Street is, lined with all kinds of obstacles and dark alleyways. So you do have to be careful. All right? And on our blog, you can go read. I mean, we police ourselves, but we've posted publicly a checklist of what you should look for in a training educator. Okay, the right questions to ask, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, and we apply that very same standard to ourselves. In fact, I would like to think that we apply it to ourselves more so than we would apply it to someone else. I don't think it's asking too much, but yet it's more than a minimum acceptable standard. Okay? Now let me not be too hard on all the vendors in the world, okay? Because there's some really great vendors out there, some great educators, some great teachers, some great trainers who really do have your best interest at heart and want to help, okay? The problem is you've got to be able to separate those guys from the guys who have the websites that disappear in the middle of the night, with the flashy emails and the tall tales, and man, it just sounds so compelling. And then they got the data to back it up, and then goodness gracious, they show you a video where the guy's actually trading, and voila, it happens. Okay? All right, but could you call that guy up and talk to him on the phone, that guy that was trading that trade that you're watching in that video? Well, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. See, if you can't, that's where the problem comes in. Because it's very easy to use market replay with your charting platform, record the day's activity. See, once I already know where the swing high and the swing low is, I can replay that data, whip out my DOM and trade it, and man, I can look like a giant. All right? And now, am I accusing everyone of doing that? No. I would say it's probably a small percentage of vendors who would resort to such tactics. Problem is, they are out there, okay? And in every industry, it's not just the trading industry. I mean, goodness gracious, if you want to go get your car worked on, you need reference. You need to. That's right there. That's a good word. References. Ask for references. See, we have good references. If you want to talk to somebody that's, been through our program, we'll let you talk to you can talk to somebody. Just like when you go to get your transmission fixed, you should be able to say, hey, this is going to set me back $1,000. I only make $500 a week. So could I maybe get a reference of somebody who's had their car worked on? Oh, sure. Now, again, I hate to be the, forever skeptic, but the person you're calling to verify that it's a good transmission, how do you know that's not his cousin, Elmo? Right? You don't. At some point, you just have to trust people and have a little faith. I'm just encouraging you to have a healthy dose of skepticism in you. And, again, consumers today are far more educated than they were just a few years ago, and I meet a lot of skeptical people, okay? And that makes my job easy because I don't have anything to hide. All my dirty laundry's been aired. I've aired it, I've washed it, aired it, and pressed and ironed it right in front of you, okay? And some of the stains still show. And I'm okay with that, all right? So, with that said, I really am going to go to Las Vegas, Nevada, and we really are going to talk to Mr. David Williams from PageTrader.com and Ms. Robin Dane, the trading coach. So please, don't touch your radio dial, because we're coming right back at you.
You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310.
We don't need you now, be on your way. I thank the Lord for love like ours that grows ever stronger. And I always will be true. I know you feel that same way too. Oh, I love you.
Good morning, Dwayne.
David, good morning. Welcome to the show.
And thank you very much. And good morning. I don't know if Robin's with us today or not.
Well,
Is
she certainly is, and she's got an open mic even. I said she's
That's her
even got
cue.
an open mic.
Okay, well,
Okay,
while
so
she's
she'll-
putting that together, we'll...
She'll pop in here in a second. I know she's there. She's probably on the phone or something.
Oh,
No, there she is.
I'm watching your mute, and I've got my mute on. It's a great day here in Las Vegas. You missed me saying that.
Yes, it is.
Well, if you were a ninja, we could say we were mutant ninjas.
Mutant
Because we were muting.
Oh, yesterday somebody made a funny in the chat room about ninjas, and it had to do with those no-income loans. How did they say that? Let me try to remember now. Ninja stood for no income, no job, I think no assets or something. Yeah.
Well, that
Have
person
you
was
heard-
bringing up...
Have you heard
I
that
haven't.
before?
No, I have
okay.
not, but I
hadn't
know the person was bringing up the unbelievable fact that, if it is a fact, that there's already, because of the housing rebound, already we're back to the point where we're giving and offering things to people who cannot afford them. And that's the very reason we got into trouble before. I know everyone has their own thing that they believe caused the housing crash. I can assure you that a great portion of it was that homes and loans were being given to people who could not afford to live there. I'm sorry, if you can't afford it, there should not be a government program that somehow makes what's not affordable affordable, even though it isn't really affordable. And the proof that it wasn't was people could not make their payments. There was a whole bunch of things that came together. Not only, I told you, my own mother had a house that was $525,000 near the peak of the bull market in the home, in the housing rally, and she sold that house to an unemployed construction guy who got a no-doc loan. And whatever his payment was, I don't know, but he doesn't own that house. I've driven by it and I've seen that it's it's off the market, or it's been sold again and so on. He couldn't afford that house, and this went on and on and on. But along with that no-doc loan came the
magical and wonderful, what was it called, where you have the interest rate is a fixed interest rate low for the first 3 years or 5 years, and then the ARM, the adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah, adjustable rate mortgage.
What a wonderful, nice little thing for people.
Oh, yes,
the adjustable rate mortgage.
Price.
I'll tell you something. There hasn't been more people screwed over seriously by anything else than the adjustable rate mortgage.
Yep.
If you touch one of those after hearing what I'm telling you about it now, then you're on your own.
Yep.
Okay? There's no better way to cause yourself financial grief than to have an adjustable rate mortgage, period. Thank you.
Yep. Yep,
So,
been there, done that.
The combination of
but
those
I
two
even
things,
paid for it. That's
the no-doc loan
You know?
and the adjustable rate mortgage allowed people to have, it's that same old thing that we have, that everyone's entitled to everything. No one's responsible, but everyone's entitled. That's the America we live in today. What happened to responsibility? What happened to, I'm sorry, I can't afford that? What happened to, I'll save more so that I can do this? But now you're owed. Everyone's owed, entitled to everything. Because you have it, that means that I should have it too. You've hurt me because you have that, and now some government agency has to balance out the hurt that you did to me by you working hard and having whatever you have. But I don't care what it is, but if you have something that I don't have, there's an agency now to make sure that you can't get away with having something that I don't have. And that's where this government's headed. More and more entitlement programs for people. And the more people that are on those entitlement programs, we have 48 million people on some form of food assistance right now. You know that. That's a big chunk.
I was listening to a program yesterday on NPR, Fresh Air program comes on every day, but yesterday's edition, they had a thing about public assisted housing, which is a government program that's been around for I don't know how long. But I remember that my grandparents on my mother's side, at one point when I was a child growing up, now this is a small town in Georgia, they lived in a little housing community that was called the Project. Now, at the time, the Project did not have well, maybe it didn't as a kid, I just wasn't aware of it, but I don't recall it having the negative connotation that today we associate with public housing. We hear it called the projects, and probably most folks know what that is. And some of us may have lived there at some point in our life. Well, I did, because I used to go and stay with my grandparents. And I remember that as being a very clean, neat, it was like an apartment, kind of a, it was like I think it was a duplex, but it was neat and clean and orderly, and the yards were well kept. And I don't know if that housing development is there anymore, but I do know that after a few years of living, well, by the time I was like 9 or 10, I remember my grandfather and grandmother buying a home, a single-family home, and I think it cost them about 40 grand, and I don't know how many years ago that was, but it was when let's call me 10, so that's 40-some-odd years ago. And that's where they lived until my grandfather, well, they're both gone now. And so they lived there for many, many years. And the home, I do believe, when they passed, the home was paid off. So so their story was they went from the public assisted housing, the projects, to owning their own home, to actually retiring the mortgage on that home and owning it free and clear. This radio program yesterday had to do with folks who were second and third generation families who had grown up in the projects or some form of public housing and had never managed to break away, to get out, and they were interviewing people who wanted to do that. And apparently what they are doing now, and I was kind of surprised to hear this, is they're starting to make some deadlines. And they're actually, one of the stipulations, now this doesn't cover, I don't know why it doesn't cover everyone, because my understanding is it's a federal program, different developments, different housing developments, and they're covered by different grants or programs, I guess. But some of them are actually requiring people to get a job.
Oh, well, there needs to be another government program that stops that program from doing that.
There probably, David, you know, there probably will be some kind of ACLU lawsuit or something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I are cut from the same cloth in that regard, and I think most of the people in this audience are, because it's biblical. It says, he who does not work shall not eat. Now, they're talking about healthy, able-bodied people. We know that there are people who, for a number of reasons, are not able to work, and I am happy to get up and go to work to take care of that individual who is not able to work for himself.
Right.
And I think most people in this audience would feel the same way.
Yeah.
But the system, and we've been taken advantage of for so long that I don't even think we recognize it anymore. So it was just surprising to me to hear that they're going to finally, attach some accountability to this program.
Well, the sad part about it is they're probably doing that because so many landlords are finally saying something, you know, that either they're not getting paid enough or whatever. So it really comes down to the landlord, you know, is not getting what he's supposed to be getting. And
well, actually,
that's a sad reason to do it, if that's it.
Yeah, actually, the Section 8 housing, which is what it is called out here, the majority of the rent is actually paid by the government.
Right.
So the person that's living there, he's going to pay $400, and maybe the rent is actually $1,300.
Right.
And so the difference is going to be made up by the $900 is going to be made up by the government. So Section 8 housing as a business proposition, there's a lot of people that want and try to get into that business. I would not want to be in that business. It's very messy. But there are people, and I don't know any, but there are people that are in the business of finding and doing the Section 8 stuff. But in the end, I'm hoping that somebody, I always am hoping, but I never know for sure. I'm hoping somebody comes to their senses and says, yeah, this is a good idea. This will help people move out of this lifestyle, because it becomes a lifestyle, and people become used to it and actually even afraid of leaving it. I knew somebody many, many years ago that had been in prison. He wasn't a close friend of mine or anything, but it was somebody that I knew through other people, and he was going to be released after having served maybe 7 years in a prison. And he was literally shaking days before they released him, because he had gotten so used to the lifestyle in that jail, and everything outside sort of faded away. He saw it on TV and heard about it, but in the real world out there it sort of faded away. And so he was very frightened to leave prison, and I actually think that happens to people who get accustomed to whatever lifestyle they're living.
When I did 4 years in the federal prison in New Hampshire.
What were you in for?
Doing 10 hours of volunteer work a week.
I'm just joking.
And exactly, I gave that to you. I gave
you
that
did.
to
That
you.
was
Just
a great
so you
gift.
know. Just
Thank
so
you.
you know, I gave that to you. And you're absolutely right. In fact, I ran a program where I graduated 82 women in 3 years, and only one has come back in that time, and that was right when I was ending my program. And she was originally in for drugs. She was one of my best students, and she, got a job doing hotel work when she got out, and she was doing really good. And here I am, ending my program because I wasn't going to be coming back anymore, and she gets pulled in, and she's in lockdown. And so I asked the warden, could I see her, which is, you're not supposed to see them when they're in lockdown, but I had a lot of privileges in the prison. And so they said, okay, but we have to give you a guard. And I said, okay. So they put me in a room, and they brought her out, and I was with her, and I said, what is going on? I said, I'm just in shock. She says, well, I'm so glad that you asked to see me. She says, because I want you to know that I came back intentionally. And I went, what do you mean you came back intentionally? She says, drugs were all around me. She says, but my living environment was so bad with my family that I couldn't live there anymore, and I was afraid to go back on the drugs, and I want you to know I didn't. And she was so insistent on telling me that she intentionally got caught on drugs again, so that they would put her back in. She would, she was, it was a parole violation, and that she was back in there, and she wanted me to know that she specifically did it on purpose to not go back on drugs. That she says, they were leaving drugs in all the hotel rooms when people would come in. She says, I never touched anything. She says, but my environment at home was so bad, I was afraid I was going to go back on drugs again, so I got caught. And it's safer for her in prison. And in a lot of cases, that's now that's a person who came back because she didn't have a good living environment when she went back out, and your environment is very, very critical in anything that you do. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your friends and your environment. And so she, she came back in, but then, a lot of them that I spoke to, we would have to go through, like David mentioned, this transition phase of, how do you feel secure on the outside, and what do you say to people, and what do you do with them so that you don't feel belittled and you can make it on the outside. Because you're right, they get so used to the prison environment and the safety of it that when they get out, they're lost. I mean, it's like Shawshank Redemption,
Great movie.
That's one of my favorites. The most fabulous movie, and it shows just the determination that they just become accustomed to getting fed and eating and just the basic necessities of life that they may not have on the outside.
But the point is another takeaway from that is, what about you and I and the listeners? What thing have we got stuck into that we're afraid to move beyond? And
sure.
And can we just see through that and move beyond? Because literally we build prisons through inadvertence, through inattention, and the walls get built up.
Yeah, that's the main stuff that I teach is breaking of that fear. We put these mental blocks in place that, on one hand, they, at some level, they do protect us, and on another level, they really hold us back from being all that we can be. And that's, one of my biggest bugaboos is getting people over those fears. Especially when you make a transition into trading. It's a lot of people haven't experienced this. There's not a lot of people you can talk to about it. Never talk to anybody about trading that doesn't trade. That's one of my big rules. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that that people can at any point in time install a block. At any point in time, people can install a block just by thinking the same thing over and over and over again. And a lot of people don't realize that power of our brain to think and anchor a thought that can hold us back is something that we're just not taught in school. And so a lot of people succumb to it because they don't know what it is, and then when they react, they don't understand why they're reacting the way they are. But the reality is that it's a block. It's a block in your head, and it's a block that's caused from thinking one thing over and over again, good or bad, will install the thought, and your brain will accept it, whether it's true or not. That's the key thing, that it's true or not. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what's real and not real. It just knows what you tell it. So you have to be very, very careful when you're sitting there at your trading desk and you're having these thoughts, that your thoughts are really good thoughts and not crappy thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've got a guy who, now people do become institutionalized. Now, this can happen with prison, it can happen with housing projects. This was a person who says, they came back to get away from the drugs. There's other ways to get away from the drugs. So I think this person may have been suffering a little bit from what my friend Ray is suffering from. Ray's doing an 8-year stretch. Ray is about 45, and Ray has spent more than 30 years of his life behind bars. He was first offended at a very young age, went to juvenile, and the whole thing. Now, when he got locked up for this 8-year stretch, he had been out of prison for probably somewhere between a year and a half. He was working for me. He was living in my home for men who were recovering from alcohol and drugs. So he had a roof over his head, 3 hots and a cot, as they say, you know, air conditioning, shower. I mean, he had the trappings of what I guess most of us
What you would think.
You know, it's not bad. A lot of folks, there's a lot of folks coming out of prison and that type of situation are either thrown back into the projects like your friend's talking about, or they end up in a homeless shelter where,
exactly.
I mean, people are doing drugs there just to escape the brutal day-to-day life that they're confronted with. But here was a guy, and we were sitting out in front of the church, kicking it, just sitting there shooting the breeze in the chairs one day, and Ray looked at me and he says, you know, he says, sometimes I miss it in there. I said, what?
See,
he goes, he goes, I don't know, man. I'm thinking about, you know, it wasn't so bad in there. I'm like, Ray, I said, man, stop. Don't let those words come out of your mouth. He goes, well, I don't know. He goes, I didn't have to worry about it. I go, Ray, you don't have to worry about anything now. You got a job. You got a place to live. He goes, yeah, but, you know, it's always hanging over my head. If I don't show up for work, if I don't do my job good, then you're going to fire me. Then I'm going to lose my place to live. And he says, and plus I always have to make these decisions every day. Am I going to do the right thing? Am I going to make the right choice? And he goes, it just weighs on me. And I said, man, and so I talked to him. I prayed with him. And about 3 days later, we flew out to Africa on a missionary trip. And I flew out on a Friday morning, and that Friday night, and I believe it was with all intent, he got arrested for a commercial burglary, not running from the scene, standing in the middle of the warehouse, waiting for them to come in and snap the bracelets on him.
He needs some
coaching. They did, and they locked. Well, he's getting out next month.
All right, I need to come down there.
I just called and got his release date because they were messing with his head. He says. Now, this 8-year stretch, because he was in. Again, you have to, sometimes it's difficult to separate fact from fiction, but you do your best. I do know that he was loosely associated with the Mexican Mafia, and he says that when he went back in this last time, he renounced his membership, and so they put out a hit on him, and so he has spent the majority of this 8-year period
just trying to stay alive.
Segregation, well, in segregation or in like voluntary solitary confinement. Now, good Lord, what does that do to him? Now, we sent him a little TV, and he's got a Bible, and maybe he's got a couple of other books, but he's in that cell, locked down, 23 hours a day. I think he gets out an hour a day to go to the exercise yard. I mean, how can you come out of that environment in any way normal, stable, healthy, whole? You can't.
Well, plus if you've never had a role model, or that's all you know, that's why they get stuck, because they really have nothing to pin their hope on, because they don't know any different, and so they don't feel they have any alternatives. So that's the revolving door, and 80% of the people that are in prison will be back again. 80%
well,
go
I'll
back.
even throw in my bit, which is what we said before, which is that people become afraid of change, even when the change is very, very good for them. They don't know anything else. They're not willing to take the leap, and it's much more comfortable. And what you heard, Dwayne, when a man sitting next to you talking about going back to jail is exactly that. He's not comfortable being free. He's not comfortable being afraid. He's not comfortable not knowing and realizing that he has freedom. He wants to go back into something where he doesn't have to think for himself. People tell him what to do, when to eat, when to go to sleep, and so on. And that's a very compressed place to be, obviously, in your life.
It's a comfort zone that they get too used to, that, and it's the uncertainty. It's the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen, or guessing what's going to happen. You know, like, I mean, it's really clear when he says that, you know, again, I listened to the words, and if that's what he was saying at the time, oh, you know, well, I've got to go to work, and they're going to watch what I'm doing, and if I don't perform the right way, then I'm gonna be gone. And again, so in his head, he's created this scenario already that he's going to fail. And so that's part of the issue, because he hasn't changed his thinking. And so if that's his loop and that's what he's thinking, then guess what? That's what he manifests. And so when he goes to a job, he actually does that, and he actually gets fired. He actually goes back in prison,
Sure,
and then
exactly.
it starts again. And so then
creates the very thing.
it just creates the whole thing all over again. And so, you know, it's a really sad thing. Like I said, I did 3 years in prison. It was a federal prison too, so I had 4 people in my first group that committed murder, and I didn't know who they were at the time. And it was a very interesting exercise for me as well as them. And I went in teaching with the idea that I wouldn't judge anybody. I wouldn't judge them for why they were in. So I never knew why they were in until I did a coaching session with them privately. And I never wavered from, you know, not judging them. I never wavered from that because I felt that I couldn't give them what they needed if I did that. And so it was a great exercise for me, but I have so many prison stories that I have one I'll just share with you, the really quick one. That, you know, I had a friend of mine that was doing Tony's work at the time, and we, at the end of each of the courses, we would do a graduation and we'd have a party, and I would get really unusual things granted to me for my group. Well, I got them to let me bring in pizza. They never get pizza. I mean, they just never get pizza. So the warden let me get pizza, and I was bringing pizza in, but I couldn't bring it myself. I had to have my friend bring it. And here was this kind of nerdy kind of guy. So I said, could you help me out and bring these pizzas in? Because I had like 8 pizzas coming in. He says, oh, okay, I'd really like to help. I said, okay. So I told the girls, I said, look, I have a guy coming in. He's going to bring the pizzas, and he's a really nice guy. I said, you know, but he's not really super attractive, and he doesn't have any women in his life. And I said, I really want you to do me a favor and make a really big fuss over him when he comes in the door. Well, this guy comes in with these pizzas, and the girls just start going, oh, you are just the nice. I said, and I told him, I said, you know, you got to be kind of careful because these women haven't seen guys in a really long time.
That's right.
And so it was very cute. It was very cute. They were very gracious, and they were so funny. And he was very funny the way he reacted, and then we broke the news to him. And
I have a little story for you, too.
Okay.
Tell my little story.
All right.
Okay, so a new prisoner is brought into prison cell 102, you know, and already in that cell is a longtime resident who looks about 100 years old. And the new man who just got in looks at the old-timer, and the old-timer says, look at me. I'm old. I'm worn out. You'd never believe that I used to live the life of Bill Gates. I wintered on the Riviera, drove exotic sports cars, had the most beautiful women, and I ate in all the best restaurants of France. And the new man said, well, what happened? Well, one day Bill Gates reported his credit cards missing. Little humor there.
That is funny. Now, there was a comment which I want to share. It had to do with the housing. It says the government bills never stated that people who could not afford them should buy the homes. The fraud was widespread in the private mortgage industry. The government did turn away from enforcement. Now, let me weigh in on that. While the government did not say come to fraud, what the government did, Barney Frank was instrumental in this, and so was Acorn and a number of others who lowered the bar. They brought the bar down so far that it made it legal to do a no-doc loan.
Yeah.
They were primarily responsible for changing the law that allowed for what was called stated income. Okay?
Right.
Didn't have to show any W-2s, didn't have to show any pay stubs. It just had to roll off your lips.
Yep.
Now, it had to roll off your lips, and you had to write it down. Now, were there a whole lot of mortgage brokers winky-winking and shuffling paper that they knew was malarkey for fat commissions? Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay? But the borrowers who fibbed on those applications, okay, they got to own up to their part of it. Okay.
Yep.
Now, was it extremely tempting? Okay, you take a guy who maybe lived in the projects or spent half his life in prison and would never have a chance at the American dream or owning his own home. Suddenly, this is dangled in front of him. Hey, if you'll just go over to this guy's office and write down this number on the form, and then when he asks you questions, just go yes, yes, yes. With no money down, you'll be living in a $250,000 home in 30, 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
Guy right across the street from me was not even an American citizen. Got a no money down loan,
Wow.
lived in the house off the taxpayer's back because it was a Fannie. He lived off the taxpayer for 6 months, never made, put no money down, never made one payment.
Wow. Wow.
Now, who's to blame there? Who's to,
Yeah.
well, that guy, he's to blame for lying,
Yep.
okay? The government's to blame for allowing it to happen. And the mortgage industry, the mortgage brokers, are guilty for collusion. For not only did they allow it to happen, but I know that in some cases it was encouraged a little bit, winky wink, because there was a lot of commissions paid and a lot of money made. But ultimately, the American taxpayer has to foot that bill. And we'll be paying that bill for a very, very, very long time. In fact, I wanted to, you know, we hear things like $1 trillion being thrown around. And like today, the big headline was the S&P today surpassed $15 trillion in value. What's our current deficit? Does anybody know how many trillions of dollars our current deficit is?
17.
Anyone know? 17. All right, let's look at a trillion. What does $1 trillion look like? Okay. Here is a $100 bill. We'll start with that. Okay? Most everybody knows what that looks like. We can understand, we can wrap our brain around Ben Franklin. A packet of $100 bills is less than a half-inch thick, contains $10,000, fits in your pocket easily, and is more than enough for a week or two of shamefully decadent fun. 10 grand. Believe it or not, this next little pile right there, it's hard to imagine, that's $1 million. That's 100 packets of $10,000. You could stuff that in a grocery bag and walk around with it. While a measly $1 million looks a little unimpressive, here's $100 million. It fits neatly on a standard pallet. Okay, 100 million. How about $1 billion? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pallets. Next, we'll look at $1 trillion. This is that number we've been hearing so much about. What is $1 trillion? Well, it's a million, or 1,000 billion, or a 1 followed by 12 zeros. Now, let's recap. There's 100. There's 10 grand. There's a million. There's 100 million. There's a billion. Now you're ready for a trillion. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you $1 trillion. And that's our little friend right there. That little speck. Same guy. Same guy. Same guy. And now, we're in debt 17 of those.
That's right.
17.
Yikes.
Holy smokes.
What's after the trillion?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't.
I mean, you know, it was funny that we had this huge panic. You could feel it in the market when we hit like 5 trillion or 3 trillion. When we got to the trillion number and we made that leap into there, and now it's like nobody even cares. It's 17, 20, 25, 30. Who cares? To the trillion. It's like nobody is even worried about it. What is the deal?
I know.
I'm going to put this link into the chat room, guys, for anybody that would like to have a copy of that.
I'll tell you what the deal is. The deal is the administration is going to waste it. They're going. Some of it isn't waste, but a lot of it is. We used to run our entire government on a $6 trillion or $4 or $5 trillion deficit, and now we're up to 17. We'll be up to 20 before the administration is over. The deal is they're going to waste it, and you, me, and everyone listening is going to pay taxes back for the next 30 years, paying it back, increased taxes. That's the deal. That's what the deal is. That's how the deal works. They waste it, we hire them into office, they waste it, and then we pay it back. That's the deal.
It's, you know, this is just, it's like, I don't know why people are not getting this panic thing of this, that this is this bad. I guess because this is what I'm thinking. People have either just become so complacent and they have figured out how to just kind of muddle along in their own lives, doing with what's ever out there, and really not understanding what implications or what the consequences are, and, you know, just trying to make their lives work because it's been so challenging. And they're like, well, why should I even worry about the government, because I can't do anything about it. I can't change it. I can't make a difference. So I just got to figure out how I survive. And people have gone into their own survival mode and figured whatever that is out, and everything else they just don't care about.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you are.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's it or not, but, you know, it's like, you know, you have to take care of your own little world that the government has created for you with whatever is out there. You know, me in my house, and another person with their job, and another person with, you know, their career, or another person with their health care. You know, these are all things that the individual gets hit with down, you know, at the bottom rung of things that we get hit with, but we have to deal with, because we have to have a home, we have to have a job, and we have to have health care, no matter what. So I don't know. I think it's just a complacency that's gone across the country or something, and I just can't understand that, why the trillion that we keep going into debt every single day, more and more and more, is just not affecting people. I just don't understand it.
Barack Obama's boyish smile, could that be
no,
that reason why nobody cares?
Well, I think as John so well put it in the chat room, nobody's really worried because it's never going to get paid.
Oh, I don't know if it'll never get paid. I'm not sure if that's not the case or not. There's going to be a reckoning. Otherwise, the whole financial system collapses.
How's it going to get paid? Where's the money going to come from?
Individuals who have jobs are going to be taxed at a higher rate to help pay off the deficit that we're building now.
And we're going to stop spending so that tax money can actually catch it up and pay it off?
Well, that's a good question, but under a different administration, somebody that understands how money really works, and that there's just 100 pennies in a dollar, and what waste is, and what it looks like, and what duplicative programs look like, and does all that, yeah, it could be done. Of course it could be done.
The austerity measures that would have to be enacted in this country to legitimately pay off that debt, I don't know that the American people will stand for that. So I know that there are those who say if we do this, this, and this, we could actually pay it back. I also understand your argument there, John, is that, you know, that the amount of money. See, here's the thing: the amount of money is so absurd. Remember, we got to wrap our brain around 17 of these. Okay, there's not even that much. To my knowledge, I don't know how much actual U.S. currency there is in circulation. Let me begin by stating that fact. I don't know, but I'm confident there's not $17 trillion, and that's beside the point, because we don't really have to print the money anymore. Very few people, in fact, a lot of you think about it. When's the last time you actually dealt with cash? I mean, your paycheck gets automatically deposited into your checking account. You pay your bills online. You get your latte with a credit card or a debit card. Many of us, sometimes I go weeks. Now, I was a guy who always had a few $100 in his pocket. That was just, well, once my life got turned around, I was a guy, I didn't feel comfortable if I didn't have a couple $100 in my pocket. Now sometimes I'll go somewhere and there'll be this rare occurrence where I actually need cash for something, and it's so rare. And I never know if I actually have any cash in my pocket or not. Now, not too many years ago, that would have driven me absolutely nuts to not have ready cash in my pocket. But I've adapted to this paperless society that we live in, and as we move away from physical currency, our concept of, knowing the value of a dollar, as they used to say, we get further and further from that. So I hope you're right, David. I hope that they do figure a way to pay it all off. John, I hope you're wrong. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I just think at some point, even if they can't pay it off, we're all going to be taxed in an effort to pay it off, even while new, larger programs are being put into play. So, and the larger the program, the more expensive it is, and on and on and on and on. So, we'll see. We'll see. I've said myself about California, which is in $27 billion worth of debt, that they're hopelessly in debt because of that very reason, that California cannot continue to provide the services they're providing, and there's not enough. They would have to raise the tax rate through the roof. But let me tell you something. The tax rate in other countries where they had great big programs was as high as 70 and 80% in Europe, and they still crashed and burned, and partially because people are not going to pay that much money. They're going to actually get up and leave. They're not. People who are productive are not going to give 75% of their income to the government.
Well, there have been times in the history of America that our tax rate has been far higher than it is now. Robin, you had asked a question. What comes after a trillion? I thought I knew the answer, but Jonathan just verified it for me. It's a Google.
It's a what?
A Google.
A Google?
A Google.
No.
Yeah, it's true. It's spelled the way it's spelled. You can go Google it. It's Googol.
Is that right?
Million, billion, trillion, Google. Yep.
Oh my goodness! Are they going to have a marketing plan at that point?
Well, that's why they named it what they named it.
Remember, that's the deficit, and there's interest that has to be paid.
Sure.
Interest is based on the interest rate, and we pay more than $10 billion a week in interest on the debt. When we sell government bonds to China and to Japan and all that, they give us money. In return, we're going to pay them back with interest. So that interest, as the interest rate starts going up, the amount we pay weekly, I'm sure many people in the audience worry, how would this house of cards continue to stand when the interest rates are up at 8%, which they will be at some point in the future? The debt will be reeling. The deficit will be at $20 trillion. Our weekly payments on interest will be 2.5 times what it is now. I just don't know how it can continue on. I clearly don't know enough because I don't even know how it is working now. But right now, I think it works because there is enough money coming in to run the basic, everything. But at some point, the debt's going to get so big that it collapses everything, and we're just going to have to deal with it at that time. But this is what happened across the pond in Europe, and you can make all the different arguments about why it isn't the same here and all that stuff. I'm sorry, wasting money and taxing people higher. I don't care what the programs are. That is the same program that we're going to be in. So, and that's the program that we are in. So, and then more and more people get on the government dole. Those people will vote more people into office that will keep these programs going. That's part of what this administration is doing. It's laying the groundwork for future far-left organizations or administrations to run this country. And when it finally gets run into the ground, they'll be pointing their fingers at the people who weren't in office, the conservatives, Republicans, or whatnot, and then it'll all be crumbled, and we'll be back to dinosaurs again. So have a good morning. That's my show. Good night. Let's get over to the markets if you want to, Dwayne. It's depressing me.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go to the markets. And
I'm depressing myself.
I read an interesting piece last night. I can't quote it all from memory, so maybe I'll bring it to the show tomorrow. But it was somebody that's part of one of my Google circles who's actually, I believe, a Democrat. And I love all people, so I don't.
There's great Democrats out there. I only complain about the far left.
What this guy was talking about was some of the important things in history that you would just, if you just thought about it off the top of your head, you would consider that it was, the Democratic Party that was instrumental in getting these laws passed or bills changed. I cannot, for the life of me, it was a long list. The only one I can remember right now off the top of my head is slavery was repealed by a Republican. Now, that's one of the greatest atrocities in our history as a country, the fact that we had slavery. But this, as I read this list, I was scratching my head. I was like, really? Really? So Republicans, those of us who wear that hat, we've been painted to be evil, and we are, and Republicans, because men are men. I don't care what party you affiliate yourself with. Men are men, and so men are going to do horrific things. And Republicans are guilty of doing horrible things, the same as Democrats are responsible for doing horrific things. At the end of the day, we're all Americans, and we have to learn how to live together and how to work together. That's the key to the whole thing. When you put on your political hat and you want to spar and debate, and then your fisticuffs are when you go into the booth to cast your vote. And then however the popular vote comes out, we won't even get into the argument about whether that's legitimate or not. But, whatever the vote is, okay, this man is our president now for the next however many years. Well, I guess we're down to 3 years now, 2, whatever. So let's do our very best.
1.5, I'm counting.
Let's do our best to keep America propped up. Let's support him with our prayers. It's biblical. It says that we're called to pray for those who are in authority over us, and so that's the right thing to do. And then when it comes time to vote again, we go back to the polling place or the booth, and we cast our vote again. But in the meantime, we got to get along, because people have forgotten. Some of us grew up in the Cold War. Some of us grew up hiding under your desk when they would sound the alarm, because at any moment Russia was just going to blow us off the face of the map. Today, the kids of this generation are more concerned with some crazed fellow classmate jacked up on Ritalin or something, kicking in the door and mowing them down with a machine gun, than they are about some superpower blowing our whole country off the map. But there is a country out there across the way who many say will become the next superpower, not just financially, but militarily. Now, technology-wise and hardware-wise, they're still pretty far behind the curve. But when it comes to boots on the ground, we don't even come close, And so Americans, regardless of your party affiliations, at the end of the day, let's remember this. We are all Americans, and God bless America. I know we have a lot of people that listen to this radio program from other countries, so pardon us for getting a little weepy-eyed and patriotic here, but that's how we roll. Go ahead, David. You want to do markets?
Sure.
I'll cast my vote for that. Robin, what say ye? What does the lady from Nevada say?
I like this move up when Bernanke was talking. I like that. but now we've got the pullback. So we have fibs on there? No. Fibs on your chart? Just curious on your fibs.
Dwayne?
Dwayne, hello?
Okay. Well, let's take a quick look at the market while he's busy.
Maybe
Okay.
he's fibbing. He's fibbing.
He's fibbing. We've been talking over the last couple weeks that we are expecting new highs to be made in the market. We've told our group to not short the market other than intraday, so that the market could first get to 1682, 1688, and or higher. I think higher prices are very likely, and we've now gotten them. We've now broken out to all-time new highs. We've been talking about this for a number of days, that the likelihood was we're going to do that. And this sets into motion for us the real likelihood that next week, which is going to be I believe the third week, the third week in July. Let me just double check that.
Yes,
1, 2,
you're right.
3. Well, I think this is the third week. We're actually, next week I think is the fourth week in July. So
What's the day, the 18th?
yeah, so the week of the 22nd. The week of the 22nd. So if you take a look at your calendar, and this is a little different than sometimes the way that the market shows it, but the 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, July has 5 weeks.
Okay.
So this is the fourth week. We would be looking, that would be the on-time week for us to look for a shorting opportunity. But I like the idea of buying into those, and that's one of the reasons that we've been looking for higher prices. Well, we've gotten them. Let's see how they handle them. Earlier today we had messaged that the market would likely pull back from today's high and test 82. So far that has happened, and we're looking potentially to take advantage of this, intraday for short-term stuff. Longer term, nothing has changed. We've now fulfilled the idea and the outlook that we would break to new highs, and with that in mind, I would stay bullish. I still like the idea of buying pullbacks like what we've seen this morning with this pullback back to the 82 level. Now today's swing pullback low has been 82. It looks like that may be the bottom, but if they are able to come back a little further, we would take a look at that and perhaps buy. We've had actually resting buy limits here that have not been triggered yet. So really that's the, it's just a continuation of what we've been talking about. And I hope, I'll say this, and then Dwayne, you can go ahead. This, a lot of people want to jump in and short the market, and I think that can cause a lot of grief until there's more confirmation. There's a lot of impulses people feel as to why they would want to short or buy something, but impulse trading will not take you far unless you're the rare bird that just happens to be wired in such a way. I'm certainly not that bird that's wired that way, that those impulses really make sense and are timed well and so on. Most impulse trading is not it doesn't work out well in the long run or even perhaps in the short run. So go ahead, Dwayne.
I think we lost him. Oh, there he is.
I'm right here. Eugene did a little further research. It turns out Google is a little further out there. Let me go find what he wrote. Google actually has 100 zeros. Eugene says that a trillion, after a trillion, comes a quadrillion with 15 zeros. So for the record, quadrillion comes after trillion, 15 zeros. Google has 100 zeros. So
thank you so much.
Clear that up.
All right.
So on the S&P 500, are you finished with the S&P, Dave?
Well,
Yeah,
I was
no, that's
asking
it.
you if there
Just
was
that.
a fib on there. I was asking you if you could do a fib on that chart.
Oh, right here? Sure.
Yeah.
This is
You
an
could do
hourly
that.
chart. So we're going to go from the swing low right here up to the swing high. And what we have is a 38% retracement. Now, so in answer to your question, yes, this place we bounced from is a 38. Now, what I had said, we had a tweet last night at 1681. In fact, yesterday on the show, I said, we've got this tweet at 1681, and we've got the one down here at 65. I said, I'm not going to send anything else out in the middle in this congested area. I'm going to wait until we break out one way or the other. So luckily that's happened. We've got some movement. We broke through, so the tweet at 1681, that got triggered today on this move up. It took us to the next weekly trading zone, which is exactly what we would look for. And once we get there, we would look for resistance, and that's exactly what we found in this hour here. And then I said it should send us back down to test the important area. But then I asked the question, will buyers step in early? Because buyers know that 1681, from here to here, 81 is a critical area, and buyers are naturally going to come in at that area to run this back up. Why? Well, because in 1 hour, they took it from 81 all the way up to a swing high at 88. That's 7 S&P points in an hour. That's not bad. That's nice work if you can get it. So what did they do? They came in 1 point early. They came in here at 1682. They didn't let it come all the way back to 81. That's what all this is over here. And that's why I told the partners to go look at their slingshot, because you can see exactly to the tick when the ball changes hands. When it goes from the bears to the bulls, you can see it. It's right there. It's graphically represented, and that allows you to be on the right side of the street. And the right side of the street is simply the side of the street that the market's on. When prices are rising, hey, let's be buyers. When the market's falling, let's be sellers. And if either one of those rubs us wrong based upon our greater outlook of the market and what we think the market should be doing, then let's be flat. The thing we don't want to do is we don't want to go against the grain. We don't want to fight the flow of the market, because that's a futile battle. You cannot win. Many have tried. Lord knows I've tried to spin my way out of it and pray my way out of it, and really all I had to do was just get out of it. All the suffering, all the pain, all the agony, the wailing, and the gnashing of teeth, and all of that, all I had to do was just click my little mouse and get out of the trade. The pain stops. I mean, you've got a memory of the pain, you know, but so there you go. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Here we are. We're coming now. We're taking this little bounce right back up here to 86, 87. Okay, so this was, we talked about it 2 days ago now. It's not a mystery. Nothing to be demystified here. Pure support and resistance. That's 90% of what we do. Price took out 81. It went to the next natural area for resistance, weekly trading zone. Where would it then try to pull back to? This area right here. The only thing that prevented it was buyers coming in early because they didn't want to miss the next rally. But sometimes they shoot themselves in the foot because they don't have all their resources that they would have if they came all the way back here. There would be more participants. The camp gets a little bit divided here by the ones who are so eager to get in and run it back up. So now what we potentially will have happen is we'll get quiet. Maybe we'll even come back, fully test it this time. Get a real nice test, and then that thing will go back up here and we'll end up with a double top at 86, 87. I don't think we're going to take out, I think we've seen the high for the day. That's just my take on it. But I'm not in the business of predicting, so however it goes, that's how we'll address it and how we'll trade it and how we'll tweet it. But I just think we've seen the high of the day. That's it for me on the S&P.
All right, well, let's take a quick look at some of the other markets today. We have some interesting things going on in a few markets anyway. We are still seeing somewhat reduced volatility in the S&P. It hasn't been bad. The decline off today's high hasn't been bad. But we still are seeing somewhat reduced volatility, and that's all part of summer, so I wouldn't worry too much about it right here. With regard to gold, we have done nothing new with gold. Originally, we had forecast a top on July 10th and 11th. The top came in on the 11th. We've had several days of sideways movement to down. We actually had a successful trade in this, but we're sitting on the sidelines right now with regard to gold. There are some interesting indications for gold, which we're going to address as the market continues to confirm. So we'll stay on the sidelines here until they show us something. Everybody has that thing where you have a successful trade and you want to get right back in because it seems like you're running, you're on the ball or whatever. You just wait for the market to give you the next trade. You don't get back in because you were just successful a minute ago. You just go silent and wait for the market to show what you need to see. This is interesting. The bond market. A few days back, we had called for the bond market to have an upcycle from the 16th into the 18th, and that the market would test or attempt to get up to our first target, which was 135.30. They got up to 135.28, just 2 ticks under it, and we had a nice trade based off of this. But you can see that the market topped out 1 day early on July 17th, yesterday, and they did that having not quite been able to reach the 135.30 level. And if you've been around us for a while, that means that there is hidden buying or hidden selling pressure. There's something pushing on the market down. And so today's market is down almost a full point, showing that selling pressure, which will potentially send bonds quite a bit lower. So we would be looking to take advantage of this in some way. Our long position, by the way, because we do use stops, was successful. We moved our stop up on 2 occasions, and on the second move up, the stop was hit in today's decline. That protected our open profits. Now we can reassert, or not reassert, but review what the market's doing and then put another trade together. If you're not trading with a stop on your entries, then you're gambling, because anything can happen, no matter how good the forecast or no matter how good the indication or how sure you are that the market is going to go somewhere. If you're not putting a stop in there, that isn't a trade, that's gambling. And the proof that that's gambling is that if you do it a few times, you'll find out that sometimes the market doesn't do what you expect, and then it just goes against you, and it could go quite far. And it could go so far that it empties your trading account, depending on the size that you trade in. But just like you don't see a guy with $100,000 play the $5 tables here in the casino, you also usually don't see a guy with a $100,000 account trading one Emini. People trade to the level that they can feel pain. That's what they trade to. You would think they're trading to the level where they can feel success. They're actually, in most cases, I believe, trading to the level where they can feel it. They can feel the pain. And so whatever the guy comes in with, whatever your account size is or whatever he goes to the casino with, he's going to play at the level that he can feel it. And that means that the guy with the 100,000 is going to also lose if he doesn't trade with a stop. He's going to end up with nothing, ultimately, or a very small amount of money. Now, that isn't to frighten anybody or to depress anybody. That's just the facts of trading, and you would want to know the facts about anything. It's a really unfortunate fact that if you fall out of an airplane, you'll fall all the way to the ground, and it'll kill you. That's a fact. So it's a good fact to know. It's not depressing to know the facts. It's actually very good to know the facts, and that is a fact about trading, is you must have a stop in. So we've been talking about that for years, since the day I got on this program, because I've learned myself that it doesn't matter how swirled up you are with confidence. If it goes against you, and if something else is going on that you don't understand and you end up holding it, you can get yourself in some deep trouble, and I have on a number of occasions. So
plus you run the risk of really setting yourself up emotionally for
terrible
repercussions after that, because it does install a block.
It does. It definitely, it's like a software download. Mm-hmm. Everything looks bleak and black to you and all that. Well, why cause yourself that grief?
Right.
But greed and fear operate in the markets. That's the main ingredients, and you have to be somehow, you have to put a program together that even though you feel it, you have to act differently than most people act in order to do well in the markets. Most people don't do well in the markets. That's just a fact. That's one of the facts. Most people do not do well in the markets. Now, that I'm only really addressing people who are trading. I'm really not addressing the buy and holders, because there's many people that have done well buying and holding, but that isn't a skill, buying and holding. When you say, I don't care what happens, I'm just in, that's luck. Over time the market does tend to go higher, but we do have pullbacks. If you go over the history of markets, where the market's pulled back for 10 and even 20 years, where it's just been very, very quiet, going sideways, and you have very little gains for long, long periods of time. And those, of course, set up the next big advances and so on.
Well, I mean, Warren Buffett would consider himself a buy and hold investor, but I don't.
Oh, no. I would disagree entirely. I disagree with that outlook. He's not a buy and hold investor. Warren Buffett is a value investor, and he didn't just buy and hold. He bought something very, very. His whole work is in the buy. He is going to, and I agree with you on one level. I mean,
that's what an investor is, a person who maybe does a little bit of research. I'm not saying you just throw a dart at a board and buy a stock and hold it, but you actually invest in a company because you like the product, or you like the management, or you like both, and so you invest in it and you hold it and in hopes that it will appreciate over a long period of time. And many investors have been rewarded for that, Microsoft to McDonald's to Coca-Cola. It does happen. And
it does happen.
And some would say, well, they were lucky they got into those stocks. I guess, if you walk across the street and don't get hit by a bus, there's an element of luck in that, I suppose. You should look both ways, but yeah. In every area of our life, we'll run into some luck anyway. Yeah.
Oh, luck plays a part in everything. I mean, there's no question. I wrote an article in CQG's interview that I had once that did an interview where I openly admitted that luck plays a part in every endeavor, and including trading. Luck has played a part in my trading. There's no question about it. But you don't want to rely on luck, because that is gambling. Relying on luck is gambling. You have to have a skill set, or if you're just going to do the buy and hold and just come back in 10 years and see where you are. Warren and people like him very, very astutely, investigate, check out these companies that they're very interested in, and he's not purchasing it with the idea of selling it. He's purchasing it because he thinks it has, enormous potential far beyond what he would live to see, perhaps. So he does sometimes sell holdings, but his general philosophy is that he's buying it without the intent of later selling it at a profit. And so it's he's spawned an entire how many legions of people follow his mentality, and it's very interesting that even though he has that and he's espoused it many times what he does, it has been difficult for people to duplicate what it is that he's doing. He's not a trader. He really is a value investor, and he determines the value and so on. And I can't speak too much about it because I don't fully understand what he's doing in his trading and in his. I do know that he bought silver. I do know that he got out of silver, but he thought silver was at historic lows, and he was right. And silver did move up.
Well,
he didn't hold for the whole.
He
was initially wrong.
Initially wrong, yeah, he sure was. But he believed in what he had done, and so he stuck to his guns. And I'm going to guess that being Warren, he probably had some kind of level, hard stop, that he would have admitted he was wrong and swung the other way. I don't know that for a fact, but apparently he whatever his methodology is, if it's luck, then wow, what a streak this guy's on. Because he's really had a string of luck here for his whole life, Yeah. So I think he's got something going on.
No, he
on
does.
The bonds today, and a continuation of this chart that we put together the other day after the show, our trade for today, which is that we're getting into the little box here, and each one of these is an individual trade on its own. The tweet last night said to consider being long above 36.07 or short below 35, because we don't know what's going to happen next. We just want to address whatever does happen. And so far today, the swing low is 134.16. It gets confusing. There's 30. Let me just show this. guys, you got to wrap your brain around this because it's not like ordinary markets. There's 32 ticks per point. So when you go from 148 to 149, that's 1 point. It's $1,000 on one contract. But instead of there being 10 ticks or 100 ticks, there's 32 ticks. So when you start doing calculations, if you aren't aware of that, it's easy to get confused pretty quick. So far what's happened from the entry that we had sent out last night, it actually dropped 16 ticks. And then this morning, we've been watching it, and you know, we're committed to staying with this thing down to the bottom of the box. Now, we did alert that stops should be on both the soybeans, because we had a soybean trade too. We'll talk about that in a minute. Both on the soybeans and on the bonds. Once the market gives us enough room to get our stop to break even, that's typically how we will trade this move. Even ones that are built off of a larger time frame perspective. We use aggressive risk management in the live trading room. We're a little less aggressive when we go to these larger time frames like a tweet, but we're still pretty strict, pretty stingy. And the partners know that more often than not, I'll send them out a tweet that says, consider taking some or all of your profit right here, and then I'll send it out again. Get out, wherever you are. And then the thing will go another 5, 10, 20 points, whatever. And everybody's like, really, Dwayne? Well, I'm sorry, but I just always err on the side of being very conservative with the exits. And, you know, over time, maybe I'll get better with that side of it. I do fairly well with the getting in, but I have a tendency to get out a little early. But that's okay. I'd rather be guilty of that, of getting out early, than getting ran over because I don't have a stop. So
yeah, you can't trade without the stop. We know that. You want to go further?
I'm ready.
Okay. Let's take a quick look at the euro. This is a great market, extremely volatile recently. I'm quite sure that people who weren't using stops have gotten themselves in some serious trouble with the euro, potentially and the dollar as well. One way that you can know is make a little note when you get into a position and when you get out, and at the end of the month when you have your statement. Take a look at where the market is now since you got out, where you were stopped out. You might find that it's about $6,000, $7,000 per contract further in the direction, perhaps, that will remind you how important it was what you did that day, how important you doing that one thing was, because it saved you and allowed you to have a profit that month. Whereas if you had held on to it and were hoping for it to come back, here you are, now your statement's upside down, and so on. You can be a know-it-all in every area of life, perhaps, but the market. And when you don't use a stop, that's what you're doing, is you're being a know-it-all. You're saying, I know it's going to come back. I don't have any worries. I've seen this before. They're just flushing me out. They're whatever. You know, I've been through it. I know it. I've been to that rehab center, you know. So
my wife's mother had a saying, the more I learn, the less I know.
yeah.
And you know what? That little saying stupefied me for a long time, because she was my mother-in-law and I was a favorite son-in-law. I didn't want to admit my ignorance, so I would never ask her just straight up, hey, what does that mean? I turned that little puzzler over in my head like some kind of mental Rubik's Cube for a long time. And I think I ultimately ended up asking some stranger on the street, so I wouldn't be embarrassed, hey, man, could you tell me what this means? And he broke it down for me, or whoever. Thank you, whoever you were. And, wow, I was like, that's deep, you know? I'm going to say it again, guys. The more I learn, I'm not going to break it down for you. I want you to wrestle with it for a while. The more I learn, the less I know. Now, you think about that.
So, yeah, in accordance to what I was just saying with regard to this really big volatility, there's a possibility that we could be looking at an important low in the market right now in this euro. And for us, we may be putting out a trade based upon this.
Now, Dave, do you mean a low to come or this one that we already had?
Well, this today being the 18th. Thursday the 18th is important. Yeah, just right now, immediately here today. So I'd like to have you keep an eye on that. Those of you using whatever methodologies, you might want to keep an eye on that because we may be doing something with that information. Crude oil. I warned people to not short crude oil because the likelihood, very much in the same way we talked about the S&P, the likelihood was we were still going to go higher from 106, even though we've had a very large move to get to 106. Likelihood is that we're likely going to see a test or an attempt at 109 prior to the ending of this. Not that even 109 would end it, but we would likely see that. Today, crude oil has continued to advance and has made a high of 108.43. Now, this move just today is going to, being substantially above 106, is going to increase the gasoline. You're going to see gasoline prices, especially in places like California, go substantially higher. So
this is the highest high since how long ago?
Quite a ways.
Wow.
If we put up a chart, this is going to be the highest high, I can tell you exactly, since May of 2012.
Okay.
This is the highest high. And then the next highest high would go back to March of 2012. But we could see substantially higher prices even than this. Our trade, we're done because we've seen 106. But the 109 is being attempted, and we did reverse off of that, but nothing has happened yet to say that the market couldn't go higher. Now, there were really, the reason we believed that with the 109 is because there was a roadmap, a lone roadmap, a single roadmap that indicated that the move from the April bottom could extend itself to 109, and that's why we put that out there. All I need to see is roughly a good attempt at it, and then later, if we, and we've had an initial attempt here at 108.43, but later, if they're unable to get there and we start to see more important setups and certain other things, then that's fine. Then we can start talking about shorting it. But for the time being, I hope we saved some people the grief of having to sit through, or take a loss on something unnecessary. Because this was there, it was easy to see, and I don't think it was too difficult for even the ordinary investor to look at it and say, I don't think I want to step in front of this. But sometimes people do. And there is a time and a place to step in front when, but it's difficult to explain in verbal words here shortly and quickly how that might be put into practice. The dollar, on the other hand, now, like the euro, has continued, the dollar-euro has continued higher, the dollar has continued lower off of their recent weekly top that they put in on the week of July 8th. That's reflected wave, called that top. Anybody with reflected wave knows about that. The market has declined off that. And we're watching this market very closely as well. The dollar has also been very volatile, and I'm very interested in taking another trade from either the dollar or the euro. And when I talk about it, I'm talking about really a trade that would be, possibly a multi-day or multi-week setup. We do have something, and I'll just mention this to you now, but if we have a weekly close this week, and I believe we probably will, above 82.50, which is an important level that we had talked about many weeks ago as a forecast that the market would decline to 82.50 way back in May, and it did, and it went much lower than that as well. That 82.50 level remains important. Its influence in the market is not gone yet, and if the market were to close this week above 82.50, that starts getting us potentially interested in something on the long side, and we have a substantial target for such a move. So that's something that we're going to continue to look at. We have some people who, on their own, self-directed, took a dollar trade the other day when I believe many people would have not been interested in doing so on the long side, and they were rewarded with a nice move up. The forecast was, or from us, the forecast was that the market would run to 83.11 or 12, 83 and change. Today they got up to 83.16, and they're now down at 82.91. That reversal is an early normal reaction to a level like that. And it'll be interesting to see what the dollar does with this point here. And that person is trading with a stop just as well. And don't call me if you're in a position. I get this a lot. I'm stuck in a position. I didn't use a stop. What can you do to help me? And I used to help people all the time with that. And then what happens is they go right back to trading, as you know this, Robin. They go right back now that they've been, now that you said, okay, well here, actually this is a bottom. We're expecting a 42-point such and such advance to do this and do that. They, oh, thank you so much. The market advances. That saves them. They, you know, if everything works out, it works out well, and then they go right back to doing the same thing again. I'm not doing that anymore. So if you're stuck in a position for not using a stop, I actually want you to take your loss. I don't want to save you from your loss. I want you to take your loss because it's actually going to end up doing you much better to pay your way out of that bad habit than it is for me or anybody else to give you information that might save you from your bad habit. I want you to stop your bad habit, not to save you from having to face the consequences of it. You won't get. You're never going to get good at trading if you're constantly protecting the very habits that are causing you the grief. Robin, you're full on this.
Absolutely. 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 I mean, it's just absolutely the truth. And you know, it's like you know, when you have children and you want to give them a lesson and you don't want them to be hurt. And there are just some lessons that a child has to go through on their own to know, or they're just going to keep trying it because they haven't gotten the lesson. So, you know, you need to get the lesson, and you need to get it fast. And I can't tell you how many trading lessons people with experience attempt to give out to people who are starting, and they don't listen. I mean, they just don't listen. They still make the same mistake. They still have a great loss. They'll still have a really bad one bad day. And that sometimes, that one bad day, I call it the rite of passage into trading success. It literally can be your passage into trading success.
It is. It can. Yeah.
You know, when you have that big loss and you finally get it and you finally hunker down and you finally say, I'm never going to do that again, and you finally say, okay, what rules can I put in place and what will I do differently so I can protect myself, and you put your stops in. And your stops are there every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. Many, many years ago, I just want to say this, and I promise we'll get back to the markets. Many years ago, I had a guy that worked with me that was a computer programmer, and his bad habit that he wanted to protect was that he didn't like his employer or anybody that was managing him to see his computer screen, to easily be able to see his computer screen. He wanted to set everything up so that his computer screen was arranged in such a way so that only he would see it. And when you would say to him, well, you know, are you getting your work done? Oh yeah, no, I'm getting my work done and so on, but I just don't. He would, you know, and you know this way. So
was he the porn guy, or what's going on here?
Oh, wait, what's that now?
I said, was he the porn guy, or I mean, what's going on?
No.
Oh, okay.
He was not a porn guy, but what he was doing was he was doing whatever the heck he wanted to do on his computer, and he felt, and he'd gotten into the habit of knowing that if he came to work, he could get a decent amount of work done, but he also knew that he could play around on the computer a lot, and he began believing in the bad habit that he needed to be able to play around on the computer in order to have a good day at work. And we had to fire him because we could never get him to allow us to see his screen. Ultimately, what is going to happen to him is some other company is going to say, you have to do this, and he is going to make a breakthrough and say, hey, I can actually enjoy going to work without worrying that people see my screen.
You know,
I can actually,
that's an addiction. You know, that's an addiction. It's same with the cell phone stuff. You know, I see these people just going crazy with their cell phones. And it's like they're attached to their fingertips or their arm or something, and they're just texting when they're walking. New York was the most mind-blowing thing, because I was walking in New York last week, and people are just texting and not looking where they're going, nothing. I mean, they're just totally oblivious to what's happening around them, and it just blows my mind that they're that you know, sucked into the twitting and the messaging thing. And that's why we're having so many accidents on the road right now, because those people are not looking at the road and they're just texting their friends.
It is a real problem. And you know what?
Huge.
Not only is it a real problem, it's a real temptation. I have to fight myself when When that thing goes off, and you know, especially if I'm waiting. Well, no, if I don't know who it is, I'm curious, and if I'm waiting on something, then I want to take action. And you know, sometimes I just have to like put that thing over in the floorboard on the other side of the car, out of reach, so I won't be tempted. You know?
Yeah, and I agree. It is tempting. In fact, one of the things that I started doing was, you know, if I go somewhere and I do want my privacy, I'm leaving the thing in the car. I don't care. I'm leaving it in the car. You want to get me, you'll find me at some point, but I'm going to leave it in the car, and I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing. And I find that really helps. And then
Another
I just
thing,
get back, I see it, and I'm okay.
You can set one of those apps up for auto respond, where when people text you, it says, "I'm sorry, I'm driving right now," and you know they understand.
Great app. That's a
that
great
is.
app.
I don't know what it's called, but
yeah, I've gotten that message. I haven't quite figured out how to get the message and send it, but I have received it,
but
and
if
I
you
think that's
get in your
fabulous.
car and just do that, people who are texting you, it actually they'll respect you for you know, respecting other people's lives, because let me tell you something. It's a grotesque display of disrespect for other people's lives when you take your 4,000-pound car and are not looking where you're going because you just have to get that text out. And I've done it a million times. I got a ticket for it, and I told everybody on the radio I got a ticket for it. I thought I got out of the ticket because the guy and I were having a great old chat, but he still handed me. I was thinking I'm doing pretty good here. You know, I got this going. You know, he still handed me that ticket. And so, and that slowed me down dramatically.
Well, they're really starting to crack down on it now, because I mean, you know, the little kids are crossing the street and you're not seeing it. I mean, it's just really is so dangerous.
A grotesque display of disrespect for other people's lives. And think how bad you would feel if you did run into somebody.
Oh my God, I don't even know what I would do if I caused that kind of an accident to somebody, and it was especially if it was a child. Oh my God, I think anybody. I don't care who it is, but a child in particular would really. Yeah. I mean, it could ruin your life.
It could drive you to drink. No pun intended.
It could definitely drive you to drink.
If you want to drink and take alcohol and drugs and all that stuff, and by the way, that's a prerequisite to be in the movies anymore, because all of them do it. And I think everybody, just in order to get signed up in Hollywood, you have to be on drugs and alcohol. I don't know what that's all about. But every last one of them, to a man and to a woman, is a drunk, alcoholic, drug-abusing person. What is that all about?
We've got a few out there that
there may be a few outliers. There may be a few outliers, and you may find out later that they're not.
Brad Pitt, he's good. You never see him doing a lot of, and look at all the great stuff that he's doing too. On top of all that, you know, when you have focus and you have a mission and you have purpose, you don't need to do all the drinking and all that stuff. You don't need it.
And there have been some great comebacks from people as well.
Yeah.
Where they really crashed and burned and came back. But
Robert Downey Jr. is one of those. He's another one I love. I think he really was just challenged by whatever his demons were at the time, but he's really done a great turnaround. I think he's great.
Yeah, he's probably the most successful. Okay, going over to the copper market, we had a trade in copper the other day. We've talked about this several times, from 305 up. We had a nice trade. We're waiting for our next entry in copper. I do like the idea that if copper closes well today, and by well that means above today's low, because today they happen to touch a very important level to us, then we may do something with this on the long side. And so we're going to watch that a little further. I've said this so many times, I'm tired of saying it, but I've done real good without getting most of the move. I can put together a nice trade that doesn't have me necessarily, although I have had a big portion of the swing sometimes, but in many cases you can be very successful not getting the majority of the move, and most people are very distraught when they see what the market would have done after they got out. That actually ends up hurting the success they just had. You just had a successful trade, and now you're already, I mean, how can you ever plan on hope to get ahead if no matter what happens to the market, you're going to be depressed about it? You missed the trade, you're depressed about it. You got in a trade and had a small loss, you're depressed about it. You're in a trade and you have a win, you gain, you earn your money, and it goes on much further than you were. Now you're depressed about that. If everything's going to depress you, then just sign up at Joe's Mental Institution down the street and, be done with it. You can't let everything turn into a negative for you, and check out if you are doing that, if everything is a negative for you, because that won't serve you well. You have to have something that pulls you towards a higher and better result. And if you keep punishing yourself, over not getting the full move and so on, you know what I'm saying. So in my world, a success is a success no matter what. I have an old saying, which is, you're only entitled to what you understand from the market. You're only entitled to what you understand. So if you understand the market's going to go from here to here, and you can go in and get that, hey, or a portion of that, you just did a wonderful thing. You had to first get that understanding. Now you have it. Now you're employing it, and you can do very well. But check out in your own thinking if you're turning everything into a negative, and that goes into life as well. Whether no matter what happens, you somehow are sour grapes and all that stuff. I don't want anything to do with you if you're a sour grapes person, honestly. I don't want any of that around me, because what people do is they purposely, without knowing it, it's not really purposeful, but in a way it is, they infect other people with their disease, whatever it is, the sour thing, the depressed thing. They're going around spreading that around. And over time, we have a tendency, no matter how, at some point we can transcend other people entirely, but they spread that, they infect you with it. You have to be very careful who you spend a lot of time with, because you're going to be picking up some of whatever that person's transmitting. Go ahead.
The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your friends.
Okay, there you are.
We talked about this yesterday, or I don't know if it was in the after show or during the class, but there is a school of thought, I think there's actually a book, and this is the core concept of the book, or I'm taking it from another book, but it says that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Which and now, how scientific is that? Why is it 5 and not 4 or 6? I don't know. But I think rather than nitpicking about that percentage, let's just try to get the overall picture, which lines up with exactly what David was saying, is that we are like sponges, Doesn't matter how much, even men, I don't care how much testosterone you've got, you're going to absorb a little bit off of this one and a little bit off of that one. And the concept the guy's trying to get, the point the guy's trying to make is that the 5 people you surround yourself with, that's who you become. Now, I would like to think I'm my own person, and but you know what? There are certain people that I get around them, and I will start to pick up on some of their mannerisms. Or I might have a friend who has got like sort of an odd gait, and if I spend the entire day with him, I might actually catch myself picking up that gait. And one that I am just horrible at, and I don't know if other people have this problem, but when I travel to foreign countries or when I'm doing business with people, I have some business partners in India, I get on the phone with them. It's not 5 minutes. I'm speaking in broken English.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, wait a minute, stop. You speak good English. You're supposed to be the good example, the role model. This person's trying to learn English from you, and you're sitting here speaking in broken, and it's human nature. We soak it up, we emulate. Now, that's an old sales trick, too, is to, mirror the customer. If he's got a southern drawl, well, then you try to get one without making it too obvious so that he feels comfortable with you, and the barriers.
How you doing? That's what I do.
That's right. Exactly. So, but yeah, what
and that's true.
Is true, guys. So that leads back to the devotional that I opened up the radio program with today, and it was about be careful who you allow to influence your life. Be careful who you hang out with, what you watch, what you listen to, what comes in through the eye gate and the ear gate, and all that stuff, because it's going to affect ultimately who you are and how you live your life. So.
I just have to tell you a story with a great visual. This woman, bless her soul, I know she didn't know she was doing this, but every time I would come to talk to her, she worked with me, and she was a little bit older, but every time she would talk with me, she complained about problems, financial and otherwise, in her life, and she always used a visual aid to impress me with how these problems were hurting her, and the visual aid was for her to put her right hand up against the underside of her neck, like below your jaw, like into your neck, and push her head up as if she was being hung or being choked
right.
by
I know exactly
something.
what you mean.
Yeah, And every time I would see her, if you gave her 5 minutes, that's all you had to do was give her 5 minutes of your time, and somewhere in those 5 minutes she would start the thing up where she'd be giving you this visual thing with her eyes wide open and how bad things. And I recognized even then that, but later I really got something good out of it, I recognized that that was frightening me. To be honest with you, standing next to her and having that visual picture being displayed to me, that actually made me worry about myself. It was actually scaring me that she could show me how bad, it was like staring into the abyss or staring into hell. And I later realized that she really doesn't know what she's doing and doesn't know that she's, you know, how bad that comes across to people. Maybe, perhaps she does, but I'm assuming she doesn't. And but it was many, many years later when I realized that that actually was causing me a great deal of fear, and then that fear was making me act a certain way, and then you get into the 7 different levels, and you don't even know what you're afraid of anymore because you've run from each successive attempt at solving that fear. You can't even remember what the original fear was. It's like a ringing set of chimes. They all go off, ding, 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 and you can't tell what is causing you your strange and unusual feelings. And so be very aware of your own responses to what people who are putting out negative energy, and you'll see that sometimes it's just a bad feeling, sometimes it's a fear.
Yeah.
You have nothing to be afraid of, but people do that, and you don't want to knowingly sit around with those people for a while until you get stronger and begin to understand your own fears away, melt them away, and then you can let those people do that. But even then, I think it's a good idea to, and listen, we've all done it. It's not like we're talking about they and us. Everybody's done it on some level. But there are some people who do that as that is their main thing that they do in their life is turn
And again, it's a
everything into
pattern. It's a pattern that gets created that can be reversed, but when you're in the pattern, you're on autopilot, and you don't even realize that you're doing it until somebody points it out to you.
And then you say, no, I'm not. That's what people say when you point it out to them.
That's exactly what happens. In fact, when I do coaching, I always say up front, I said, you're going to have to excuse me because I'm going to interrupt you if you say language that I want you to change. I said, because I used to write the words down, and then at the end of my coaching call, I'd say, okay, these are the words to remove from your language. And they'd say, I didn't say that. And I said, but you did. So I said, I don't fight anymore. I just tell you that I just interrupt you and tell you that you have to change it.
I just tell people, look, and I said, listen, I'm high on my own neurotoxins right now, so I need to go. Okay, can I? No. All right, let's go over to soybeans, but watch for that. Watch for that because that's a very common. It's almost like Dracula. You have to let him in, and then he hurts you. But if you don't let him in, then he doesn't hurt you. Remember how Dracula, he has to come into your house or whatever? He knocks at the door or whatever the old thing was, and you have to let him in. Well, after you get to know these people and hang around them, you start letting them in. What are you giggling about over there?
I've never heard about this knock at the door, let him in.
Well, what about the old Dracula movies where the girl opens the door and he has to, if you let him in your house, then...
I've never heard that one.
Everybody in the audience is screaming, "Don't open the door!"
Yeah.
It's like what's out of. In fact, I think a similar scene is in the Rocky Horror. For those of you who've seen Rocky Horror, maybe you tripped out to that a little bit as a
I
younger
believe
person,
you.
staying up until midnight.
I don't remember that. I don't know why, and I used to see them all.
Rocky Horror. You don't remember the Rocky Horror picture?
No, I do, but I just don't remember seeing that you don't let him in thing.
Yeah, right.
All right, back to the market.
Okay, so we're on soybeans. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, well, if you want to go first, go right ahead.
I've already talked about it. We had a tweet to be short below 1273, and then we sent out a tweet to take summer all profits. When we had a dime in it, we said take summer all profits, and at the very least, make sure your stop is at break even. So we've now pulled back all the way to 12. Well, we're at 1266 right now. So these November soybeans, man, I'm telling you, a fella could just get hooked on them. They've been so good to us the last couple of weeks. Then I went back and looked at our charts from this time last year. We were very active in the beans, and same thing. So I committed to everyone this morning in the trading room and also at the beginning of the show that I'm going to, as we roll out of November beans into January is next. Is that right, David?
Not sure, actually. I'm not 100% sure what the next month is.
I'm gonna stick with it this year.
Probably.
I want to document a full 12 months because I know that certain things are seasonal, and if I don't want to try to force trades in January beans if they're not there, but I'm going to be conscious and cognizant, and I'm going to blog about it and take good notes. And then we might come away after this 12-month study and go, okay, we now have 2 years of data. November beans trade really well, but our method doesn't play out as well in these other months. I don't know. I don't have the data, and so, but I'm accumulating it. And so, guys, if you see me go a couple days without mentioning soybeans or without a tweet, call me on it because I do get busy, I do get distracted, and that'll put my attention back on it long enough to at least say, you know what, I've looked, I don't see anything, and that qualifies as a journal entry. In fact, that's what it'll become, as a journal entry. And then when we reflect back, we won't just be going, I don't know what happened. Because right now, if I look back to last fall, winter, and spring, I don't know what happened because I wasn't watching. So,
yeah. This is true for lumber as well, markets that we don't always trade. There's some really good periods of time where these markets will act well, and sometimes you don't necessarily have to know exactly what those months are going to be. You can watch the market, and suddenly it starts looking right, and you're starting to see your setups and so on. I used to work for a lumber company, but I got bored. All right, let's go on. I'm so sorry I even
would you stop it?
Yeah, that's just horrible. Gosh.
Did you get it? Would you stop it?
Yes. Oh, that's good. That was a good comeback. I used to work at a transmission factory, but I didn't like the shift I was on. A little humor there. Don't get me started on that. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's everything. We had a little call for natural gas that Bert took advantage of for a move up. I don't even remember exactly what the number was, but Bert did a nice trade in the natural gas on the. You take a look at natural gas today, a big move up. And I think Bert may be around. I don't know if he is. I don't remember the number we gave out, but they completed it. It was a decent distance away, and they ran to it today.
What month are you trading in natural gas?
This is August.
Okay.
So natural gas is a very fast-moving, can be very fast-moving market, and these are markets that, again, many traders don't even think about trading, and yet there's a lot of very good tradable setups for advances, and we got a good piece of today's up move out of this. So we'll continue to talk about and watch natural gas. But I just want to say something about natural gas real quick. I've noticed that in our methodology, especially regarding roadmaps, that natural gas has some unusual things that it does. I know we have the numbers right in terms of putting the view together for the roadmap and so on, but I have noticed that natural gas does some unusual things, like as an example, let me give you an example of an unusual, not unusual, but just many months back, we had called for the natural gas to bottom in February of 2013 down at $298, and then that would launch the market up for a very powerful multi-month advance. And they bottomed 1 month early at 305. Okay, well that's not too far away, but I've seen many instances now where natural gas, when it shows that trait of not quite touching the number and then later having a big move, it does it in a big way, so much so that you're almost not even willing to take the trade. You're almost saying, you know what, I'm not sure I want to put this trade together because I don't think they've moved close enough to even call it a miss. You know what I'm saying? Natural gas does that a lot for us in our particular methodology. So,
Great observation.
Just saying. Yeah, it's pretty obvious to us.
No, but the reason I say that is because, with time, if you focus on a particular market, and this is what some people don't realize, when you focus on a particular market, you'll start seeing those little tiny distinctions that can make a big difference. And, if you see that same cycle repeat itself over and over each time, now you're wary of it and you can take advantage of it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a great observation. Great.
I think that, and thank you. That's I think that's everything we have for today. And we do have some interesting stuff coming up in Apple. I mentioned a few days ago we sold puts in Apple last month in June for the advance that we are now getting. We've talked about this a couple times on the program. We believe that, not natural gas, but Apple is going to go up to 441 to 442. They've gotten to 434 and change. We think that there's some higher prices. So this is something that we do a lot of, which is we sell time premium for collection of premium. So do some of our clients that trade through Bert Schlichter. And I do want to say something about Bert Schlichter. He is available all day throughout the day for people to talk to, people that are both clients of his and not. He also has a very broad understanding of how options work, and he's able to take your question and perhaps direct you in a certain direction. If you are not of a mind to, if you're not happy with your broker, he's not giving you what you might be getting elsewhere, you might want to check out what Bert is doing, because I call Bert. I'm using his services myself to get certain bits of information from him, and I do talk about trades with Bert. We go over ideas. We'll sit down and say, hey, well, this is what we think is going to happen, and he'll come back, and Bert has his own viewpoints on the market and so on. Sometimes his view corresponds with mine, and if we have that, then he might put some of his customers in. But he's also very conscientious, and he's not going to just run trades to get commissions. He's in the business of being a broker, but there's good brokers and there's not so good brokers. So,
And I have to say, and I don't mean to sound like I'm going crazy here, but I went to see him in Chicago, and he is phenomenal. I saw him multitask like nobody's business, and he's right on top of the market. So what David is saying is absolutely the truth. I saw him live.
I use it myself.
He's just fabulous, just fabulous.
Well, there you are.
There you go.
And you can give him a call. I'll give out his number. Bert's phone number is 866-928-3310. He's available for weekends and parties. No, he's available all throughout the day, each day. So give him a call if you have some questions. And I think that's everything that we have. I do want to mention to you just briefly that one of the stocks that we watch a lot, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it's soda had a very, very powerful decline this
can we bring it up? I'm just going to bring it up.
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
It looks something like a crash, actually, but a very, very powerful decline that still may not be over yet. So I'm assuming you're not in it, otherwise you would have known.
No, I'm not in. No, I haven't been in. I've been in Zynga.
Okay.
I'm in Zynga.
All right, let's get up here. Did you say soda? Is that the one?
Yeah.
SODA.
Here we go. And there it is. Yep, broke down through the 50. And then there was a gap down on this day. Did they just have earnings or something?
Wow.
I don't know. But you can see that's a substantial move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what kind of news we got on them. Soda.
I feel soda bad about that. Sorry.
So what kind of headlines? Q2 earnings release. That comes August 5th. So that hasn't happened yet. Green Mountain. Why do analysts keep getting soda wrong?
Maybe they don't know.
I don't. Maybe they
Now,
don't.
this is the company that makes the product that
SodaStream.
allows people to, okay.
Make their own soda.
Make your own soda, right?
Okay, so now that we're on the news page, let's try soda. Shaquille O'Neal under fire by Consumer Group for new soda line. Okay, that's something different. Soda, July 26, options begin trading. Options in SodaStream International saw new options become available today. Wait, that's got to
I
be...
wonder, would that have an effect?
Wait a minute, what's today? Oh, that's...
July.
Wait a minute. Today's only July 18th.
How could... Huh.
There's a quote for the day. No great artist ever sees things as they really are. If he did, he would cease to be an artist. He'd be a photographer, I guess, or something. Okay, Soda. Investors in SodaStream International saw new options become available today for the July 26th expiration. Okay. Put contract at 55 strike price is a current bid of 45 cents.
Is that possible? Can that move it?
Open that put contract, they are committing to purchase the stock at 55, but will also collect the premium, putting the cost basis of the shares at 54.55 before commissions. Now, are they saying that options trading for Soda is new in and of itself, or are they just commenting that it's like, you know, how we have rollover in the futures? Is this a new options? David, you're the, you know, I don't know, I'm not an options guy. Do you have any?
I don't have anything to add to it. I don't know when they did anything on that with options, but the stock is now optionable. And that actually is a
that's my question.
thing.
Is the news here that the stock just became optionable, or has it been optional all along, and we've just got like a new contract that's becoming available?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
All right.
I didn't get the whole article.
Okay. Well, Robin, maybe you can find that out, or any other news. We'll talk about it tomorrow. How about that?
Yeah, it's just, I'm just saying that there's just a whole bunch of companies that are technically under technical scrutiny, that being SodaStream and Leapfrog and Pitney Bowes and Jarden Corp. So I don't know. I don't see.
Tesla got whacked a little bit from 130
and that was on the
down to
16th.
110.
That was 2 days ago. But you know, if you look at if you go to a 5-day chart, it looks like it's coming off of just around 56.50, and it's starting back up again. It's got a little dip up. I don't know. It's got to get through 60. But
Okay, on a weekly chart, I've got a little doji forming here. Okay, so this is a pullback, a little downtrend. If we finish the week positive tomorrow, then yeah, this is a
so it looks
our classic candlestick type pattern.
And we did have. Remember, we had that other one before. Remember that big dip we had before?
Which one?
Way back when. What's that big long one? I can't tell the months at the bottom. Is it weeks or months? You're on weeks.
I'm on weeks.
Yeah, I can't see. Oh, there you go.
Which one are you looking at?
Back. Oh no, that was last year. Okay, no.
Yeah, that's last year.
No. No, I mean, it's. I don't think it's. I still think it's fine. I have been watching Zynga. Zynga is.
Well, that had a nice pop. We talked about that the other day while you were gone.
It's got a little 5-cent pullback today, but I need it to get through the 360. That's what I need.
Okay.
So it's been on a little downward move here for the last couple of days, last 3 days, and I'd like to get through that 360. So we're kind of just not doing a whole bunch of anything right now. Just kind of going sideways. 350 to 340 today. Up past 350. High was 352, and we're above. We're at 341 right now. Only a 5-cent change. So, nothing, no big deal. But it's not doing anything. I mean, it's just kind of doing nothing.
Oh,
so we gotta wait.
Marty just has already left. Marty, I guess I'm sorry I didn't see your comment sooner, but GMCR, Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, is coming out with a competing product against soda.
Ah, well, see, that could do it. That could do it.
It says there's other months of soda available, so I think they were just announcing that contract was becoming available. Ken says, oh yeah, Ken, we actually talked about this the other day. Zynga hired a guy from Microsoft that used to work in the Xbox 360 division, and actually what Ken writes is Zynga hired the guy from Microsoft that ruined the Xbox 360.
Oh.
I wasn't aware of that. Not sure why anyone thought that was a good idea. I don't know, Ken. We did read the news the day that that announcement came out, but I don't know any of the backstory. My son has an Xbox 360, and I've played a couple games with him. It's got the Kinect where it can see you and see your hand motions. And
Wow.
but you know what? If I went in there right now and just told my son, if I said, hey, you can go play your Xbox 360, or you can play your Nintendo DS, the little handheld thing. He would go for the handheld thing.
Oh, is that right?
9 times out of 10, yeah.
Huh.
Why? I don't know. Because when I look at that little thing, you know, I don't.
So tiny.
I can make no sense of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really can't.
We're not in that generation. We're just not in that generation. We just, you know, they are on their own wavelength.
I mean, I was on the cutting edge with Ms. Pac-Man. I mean, that was my.
You're pretty with it though. For you know, for being up there, you're pretty with it. You're way more with it than most.
That's funny. We used to cut school and play Miss Pac-Man and foosball all day down at 7-Eleven. Yep. All right. So, David, you're taking off, or you already left?
No, I'm here. I want to thank everybody for
Quotes.
listening today. And go ahead and give your quote.
A couple quotes. The moment of enlightenment is when a person's dreams of possibilities become images of probabilities. Vic Barden. A genius is one who shoots at something no one else can see and hits it. Anonymous. I like that one. To accomplish great things, we must not only act, but also dream, not only plan, but also believe. Anatole French. Okay, one more. We grow great by dreams. Woodrow Wilson. So there you go.
I will give you a quote as well today.
Okay.
I have one from Vernon Howard.
Okay.
So here's his quote. Mental terror has no power of its own, but must rely upon the misunderstanding of the terrified. There you are.
Okay.
Mental power has no terror over its own, but it must rely on the misunderstanding of the terrified. I don't know if that makes sense or not to you.
Also, Coach's Corner tomorrow. Be there, be square. Bring your
Coach's
suggestions.
Corner is at 3 Eastern.
3 o'clock Eastern, and it is gonna be an open session. So bring your questions. Bring what are you challenged by. So what's the thing that's challenging your trading right now? We'll have solutions for you tomorrow. Please be there. I think you'll enjoy it if you've never joined us before. It's a really great session, and we have a good time. It's a good time, and you'll learn something. So with that, I'll say have a great day, and thank you for having me, David, and Dwayne, and Michael, and Mike, and whoever's there today. And we will see you tomorrow at Coach's Corner.
Thank you. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, take care. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you both back here tomorrow. And let me find the outro. There we go. Rock and roll.
I didn't notice what time it was. All I know is that I fell in love with you. And if all my dreams come true, I'll be spending time with you. Every day's a
Down, the S&P 500 set all-time record highs. Not just in the indices or in the cash index, but in the futures as well. Dow S&P set intraday record highs for the first time since May 22nd. These are the good old days. Telling you what, world's falling apart at the seams. Market keeps going higher. Sound familiar? Be prepared, right? You know, love God, love people, love life. Do your best at whatever it is you do. You know, just do your best. You know, and we're all called to do many different things. Some of us are called to trade, of course. Others are called to do other jobs. Some are called to trade and do other jobs. And along with that, we're also called to be men. We're called to be husbands. And so strive to be the very, we have this, we want to compartmentalize our lives. And we not only want to see, it's like, well, if I'm going to be the very best trader that I can possibly be, then I can't also be the best husband or the best father. Well, why not? Because it's hard. Yeah, it sure is, man. Wow, it's really hard. But I think that's what we're supposed to try to do. We don't have to. We're not supposed to consciously and willingly sacrifice the other just so we can excel over here. Because if we do, then it's a hollow victory, right? Now, I realize, you know, not all of us are the all-American guy, the big man on campus, the guy who had blonde hair, blue eyes, was 6 feet tall when he was 12, you know, captain of the football team, the quarterback, the homecoming king, you know, all the stuff. I wasn't. I was a pudgy little kid of average height. I did not excel at sports, and I didn't have time for any of the clubs and the socializing that went along with school because I was working 40 hours a week. We came from a lower-income family. You know, when you're old enough to work, go to work. So that's what I did. And so, am I complaining? Do I have regrets? Well, I don't know. One can't help but wonder, and we've all done this. We can't help but wonder, you know, what if? You know, what if my parents had, you know, more money? What if my circumstance? What if I had been 6 feet tall? And what if I could throw a perfect spiral football? And what if I was the home? You know, not all those guys end up at the top of the heap at the end of the day. Some of them right now are bald. They got a bulge in the wrong place, and they're broke. Some of them, you know, and some, those rascals, it carried over. You know, and I've never been to a high school reunion because I graduated at 16. I don't really have a high school graduating class, but I don't need to bore you with that story again. So I've never gone back to the reunion to see how everybody turned out. In fact, I am not in touch with even one person that I went to school with as a kid, not even one. Now, you know what? There's probably something wrong with that. I wasn't hated. It was just kind of like I didn't exist, I think. I bet if you asked 90% of the people that I went to school with, if they remembered me, they would, I bet 9 out of 10 would say, vaguely, is he kind of chubby? Freckles? Oh yeah, I think so, right? Now there was 3 or 4 people I hung out with, you know, and we did shenanigans on the way to school every morning and on break, and those guys would remember me. But since we left high school, have any of them reached out? No. Have I reached out? No. Oh, my quote-unquote best friend in high school, he moved out to Phoenix quite a number of years ago. This is back in the early 80s, mid-80s. He moved out because I was doing pretty good. I mean, my life was a mess below the surface, but above the surface, I had a job. I was a sales manager for a company, and I was making good money. You know, this is mid-80s. I was making $1,000 a week. That was always the big deal. If you could make a gee whiz, that's what we called it. If you could make a gee whiz, man, you were somebody. And so making a gee whiz in the 80s was a big deal. It didn't do me any good because I certainly have nothing from any of the money that I made back then. I have absolutely nothing to show for it except memories and life experiences that living taught me a lot of lessons, which hopefully will help me today to be a better person. I pray that they do. Otherwise, it really was a waste. So my friend from high school, quote-unquote best friend, came out to live because he wanted to hang with me because I was making money, and he had just gotten out of the Navy, and he didn't have a job. He wanted to get a job, so he came, and I got him a job working with me. And his amazing thing in high school, now, he was the one, he always got the girl. Everybody liked him. The teachers liked him. He was oh so popular. He was a good-looking kid. You know, he was everything. I always wondered why he even wanted to be my friend, right? The only thing we had in common was those shenanigans on the way to school, you know. Really, seriously, that's the only thing we had in common. His parents were very educated. His father had gone to college, and I think his mother even went to college. And boy, it's where I grew up. It was rare if your dad went to college, but if your mother had gone to college, that was really odd. Because you got to remember, I grew up in a very small town in Georgia. Even though I graduated high school at 16 and did pretty well on some of those tests they give you, nobody ever even suggested I should go to college. Why? Because I was supposed to just go to work at the gas station, you know, and marry some girl from town and have kids. I mean, that's just what they did. I'm looking back, I'm amazed at what a horrible lack of vision there was. I don't know, but anyway, I went down this road for a reason. I really did. Oh, my friend, he moved out, and because he wanted to work with me because I was making money and he didn't have a job and he just got out of the Navy and blah, blah, blah. So we started a business together, and I put him on the company checking account. And turns out he was everything to everybody in high school, could do no wrong, golden boy. But when it came to this business of sales, he was horrible. He stunk. And one morning I woke up, he had cleaned out the company bank account, had loaded up his pickup. I was renting him an apartment. By the way, he didn't pay the rent. Packed up his pickup truck and drove back to Georgia. Now, dude, if you're out there listening to this, you know, because maybe you're like stalking me from a distance, I don't know. Actually, I think you could probably care less. But once he did that to me, I tried calling, and his dad would get on the phone, and I would say, hey, man, would you please put your son on the phone? He stole from me, he didn't pay his rent, and his dad would never make him get on the phone. Now, we were grown men at this point, right? We'd both been through the military. I mean, come on. And so I finally just forgot about it, and in my heart, I've forgiven him. Maybe sounds like there's animosity in my voice, but I could care less. How silly would it be for me to be tied up in bondage to something that happened years ago that I can do absolutely nothing about? I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he's found happiness and purpose and destiny, and maybe he's got a wife and kids now. I don't know. But he's the guy who was like the golden boy in high school, but then his life after high school, didn't go so great. So anyway, back to the markets real quick, and then I got to go. I think I mentioned I got to go. Oh, I talked about this in the live trading room this morning. I got to go to bureaucratic Hades this afternoon. I have to go to the Bureau of Vital Statistics, I believe is the proper name. Our kids, my son and daughter, most of you know our adoption was final back in April, and the kids they come with new birth certificates. Imagine that. Now, Gabriel, my son, those of you that have been around the radio show a long time, you know that he's lived with me since he was 4. Except for a brief period, they sent him back to his biological mom. I'm not his biological father, but I'm the only father he's ever known. And so I call him son, and he calls me dad. And the same with my daughter. She's never known. She has a different biological father than Gabriel. They have the same biological mother, but she's never known anyone as a father figure except for me. And so the adoption's finalized, and as I said, they come with their own paper, a new set of papers, right? So my wife and we already went down, sat in line, you know, waited, only to get up to the counter. And of course, the government employees behind like 9 inches of bulletproof glass. And I shoved the paperwork under a little cage there, and I like, hey, we're here to get, new birth certificates for the kids. Oh, hi. Yeah, you have to come back in 30 days. I'm like, what? Didn't they tell you? You have to wait 30 days. And I was like, no, nobody told us. Okay, well, come back. So I've been putting it off now, and they're about ready to start school, and I don't want there to be any confusion when they go to school with, what's your name? No, really, what's your name? So we got to get that clarified, because their names have changed. Their first name's the same, but my son, he wanted to take on my dad, who, by the way, he's never met, only by telephone. My father's name is Nelson, and so my son wanted to take Nelson on as his middle name. And of course, his last name is Reeves, and my daughter, Emily. And we didn't force them to change their names. This was, the social workers worked with them and, counseled with them. And over a period of time, they made this decision. It wasn't like a one-day decision. They had like a year to make up their mind what they wanted to do. And at the end of the year, they both held true that they did want to change their names. And Emily's name was Emily Nicole, which I thought was a very pretty name. Gabriel's name was Gabriel Jonathan. He changed his name to Gabriel Nelson in honor of my father. And Emily changed her name, her middle name, from Nicole to Grace. Yeah, I know. I like that too. Because of church. That's why she did it. Not because we know anybody named Grace, but because she understands. At 5 years old, she'll be 6 at the end of the month, on the 31st. At the age of 6, she understands the concept of grace. She understands the concept of grace in her life, that she has a home, parents that love her and have high hopes for her. She knows that God has plans for her, plans to prosper her. How does she know? Because it's in the book, and I've read the book to her. And she's learning to read the book herself, and that's an exciting adventure. So my son loves to read. He's the most voracious reader. You would think he was biologically my son, because when I was his age, I loved to read. And because I wasn't good at sports and nobody would pick me to be on the team because I was overweight and blah, 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 I holed up in the house and just read. I lived some kind of fantasy life through books. They took me to places. And the other day I heard, excuse me, Gabriel is helping Emily learn how to read. He's working with her. And I heard him make a comment to her. He said, because she was like, she wanted to play, and he's like, no, come on, let me help you, let's work on this. He said, and I heard him, he didn't know I was listening, and he said, Emily, books can take you places that how did he put it? Books can take you places that nothing else can. Gosh, I can't remember exactly how he worded it right now, but it was so nice, and it reminded me of his age, Now, he is athletically inclined, and he is of normal height and weight, and, I'm sure the kids, these public schools, they don't have sports until you're like in the 8th grade, so he hasn't had a chance to participate in sports, but I have no doubt he'll get picked for the team, and he is playing the saxophone, and first year he got second chair, which I hear is kind of a big deal if you play saxophone. Those of you that are musically inclined or in the band, you probably know about that stuff. I don't, because I'm not musically inclined. I can barely play the radio. So, all right, I don't know how I got off on all that, but there it went. And now it's time to close out this show. Bid you adieu. Go. I guess I'm stalling. That's what it is. Now it's all very clear. I'm stalling because I don't want to have to go down there and sit in that line and then get up there only to find out that, of this ream of documents that I have, that one of them's not right or hasn't been notarized or something, Way to go, Dwayne. think the worst. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep a good thought, and it's going to be painless, and we're just going to just glide right through there. There's hardly going to be a line at all, right? And we're going to find a perfect parking spot. That's right. We're not going to have to park 3 blocks away like we did last time. No sirree. Okay, let me go look over here in the chat room and see if there's anybody still awake after I told my little life story there, or at least one page of it. Scroll. If you got a question and you haven't asked it yet, I really do have to go, so please type it in and I will try to answer it for you before I go. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. I think I covered all of this. Ken says he worked at a glue factory but just couldn't stick with it. He says he worked at a place where they made fire hydrants, but he couldn't park anywhere near the place, so he left. And he had a lot of jobs. He also worked at a sewage treatment plant, but the hours stunk. And let's see, Mike G put in a link for me. Soybeans today, I guess, have traded 80,000 contracts. Volume updated. I'm not sure. We could find out. All we got to do is go to the daily soybean chart. Let's see, insert, indicators, volume. What do we got? 67,000 contracts today. Now, this is the Globex session. Okay, this is the 24-hour session. So if you're running a day chart, you might show a different number. Okay. Scrolling on down in the little chat box. What else do we got? Okay, GMCR is coming out with a competing product. We covered that. Oh, Pete gives a high five to Bert. Bert has been very helpful in a lot of situations that I was dealing with. He is a very dedicated individual. Thanks very much. Thank you, Pete. And there's Ken's comment about the Xbox 360. Ken says Zynga makes games but had no idea how to monetize what they do. I thought they made like $5 billion last year, but I could be wrong because I do know they've got a thing now where they're doing some gambling for real money. So how do we access Robin's Coach's Corner tomorrow? Yeah, it'll be right here in this room tomorrow at the end of the radio show. I will leave this room open, and then we'll come back for the Coach's Corner, and then at 5 we'll come back for Releasing Kings. This will be our 3rd episode. Okay, if you haven't listened to the first 2, now the author of the book Releasing Kings, John Garfield, he is the author and a CFRN partner, and he's been kind enough to give me an hour of his time, which I turn into 2, every other Friday. And we talk about the things of God and about his book and about this movement, Releasing Kings, and about the 7 mountains. And it's incredibly compelling. And I encourage you to come and be a part of that tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. If you Google Releasing Kings podcast, that'll take you right to our page on CFRN. You can also go to the iTunes store, and in our feed, the Christian Financial Radio Network feed on iTunes, you'll find them there as well. I'm going to create a feed just for the Releasing Kings podcast, which will make it easier for folks to find. But from now, just Google it, and it's right there. So listen to the 2 episodes we've already done, and then come tomorrow at 5 and be a part of that, okay? Oh, and speaking of Zynga and speaking of games, let me show you this. I've been meaning to show you all week, and I just keep forgetting. Go to CFRN.net. If you're a guy that likes to play games, or a lady, okay, go to the blog, and you got got to click on View Recent Posts, okay? Oh, actually, hang on, let me back up a minute. If you just go to Emini Radio Blog, does that toolbar, oh, it pops up, okay. So all you got to do is click Emini Radio Blog, right? Down here on the toolbar, I added games, okay? That's right, games. Ta-da! I don't think you can hear it, but there's some great sound effects going on right now. It's just the way the audio works. I've got my audio routed through another computer, but you can see the screen. So you just pop this out. How's that? And then there's all these different games you can choose from. I was playing checkers the other night with some guy from Germany. Oh goodness, he spanked me. He did, man. I'm telling you. See, this is live challenge. Check this out. Okay, now this is free. You don't have to sign. There's 193 players online right here. Now you can play with somebody you know that's on Facebook. You can play together, or you can just play with a stranger. Watch this. This is cool. Takes it a second to load up. It's searching for an opponent. There's somebody somewhere around the world is waiting to play checkers. Layla, is that you, Layla? Seriously? I bet it is. Type into the chat room if that's you, Layla. We have a Layla who's in England. So anyway, I'm now playing with Layla. And if we want to have a conversation, we can. And it's my turn because see, mine are lit up green. So I make a move, and now this person, Layla, is going to make her move. Sometimes these people, I've learned, are playing like multiple games, and so if they're not paying attention, then you have to ask them, see, are you there? Okay, sorry, I have to run next time. Do you see that? Now I see it's rude of me. Let me go ahead and let her get one jump. See, she's distracted. She's playing multiple games, so I don't feel so bad about closing it out. Now again, you just go down here to the toolbar, click on that. Look at all these different games, chess, checkers, and you can play with people around the world in real time. I find that fascinating. So now, if you got kids, be careful if you let them use this, because you saw that chat app at the bottom. You know, well, you know that you have to be very careful with what your kids do on the internet, so I don't need to tell you that. But it's free, guys. I already paid for it. Played to your heart's content. You can log in so that people actually know your name, or you can just log in as a guest. You see, I didn't have to download anything, so you don't have to, you know, I looked around to find one that wasn't challenging to play and to use, that was very user-friendly, and you didn't have to install stuff on your computer. Now, that's a Flash app, so if you're on an Apple computer, I'm thinking it's probably not going to work. But if it's on a PC, but if you're on a PC, which I am, it'll work just fine, just like mine did. Okay, let me go back to the chat box. I'm so easily distracted. How did you determine hang on, getting a text here. Okay. How did you determine the 86, 87 level for the ES since we're at an all-time high? That's a great question, Ken. The weekly trading zones, that is my own methodology. It's something that I created over time. It's a function of math, okay? And I've been publishing them for the CFRN partners now for a couple years. And that's my little gift to the partners. Every Monday morning I send out the weekly trading zones. And it's, well, I don't know. Go look at the charts. There's hundreds and hundreds of charts on the website. Have a look at how they work and how they play off the numbers, and you'll be able to, you know, see if it's good for you or not. But here's what happened. Price got up here to this zone at 75.76. It consolidated for like 10 hours. We counted up earlier, and it never really broke away, okay? But we were able to get this tweet off the 72, which took us up through the zone. See, once we consolidate, right, then what typically happens is, well, price has to do one of two things, okay? From here, price has to return to the zone below it, or it has to advance to the zone above it. Well, when I say it has to, I mean just eventually it will. That's just the nature of the markets. They're not just going to go sideways forever. Now, this is an interesting one because, now, partially it's because the zones are so constricted this week. See, the zone is 71. The swing low of this candle right here is 71.75. So we only missed coming back to the zone by 3 ticks. 3 ticks, less than 1 point. So weekly trading zones are an area. I realize it's defined on the chart as a 1-point range, but we think, and we teach the partners to think of zones as an area, okay? And so is that the area? Yeah. Do we get accustomed to seeing it turn right at the zone? Yeah, we do. But will this happen sometimes? Yes. Especially when zones are as constricted as they are this week. See, from 71, there's only 4 points. That's only a 4-point range. That's really unusual. But again, because it's a function of math, all right, and it's based on historical prices and other things that are computed in the formula, if the zone's 4 points, then it's 4 points. It's not something I can just arbitrarily change. And so I don't like it, and sometimes I get emails, hey man, I can't trade this week. You made those zones too close together. Well, see, I don't make them. I mean, I show you levels that are going to be important, but I don't create any of it. I mean, I create the zone. You know what I'm saying. The market, I'm just showing you what I think where the market is going to have its reactions. Okay? And how did I know about a number where price has never been before? Well, because the mathematical equation works. It doesn't matter if you've ever been there before or not. The math can go where man has never been before. Maybe that's the best way to answer that. Okay, are there any more questions? Nope, I think I've gone through them all. So anyway, Ken, it's not a Fibonacci extension though. It's very possible that if you ran some Fibonacci extensions somewhere, that it might, I don't know, if you ran off this leg, that would be way above any extensions. Let's look at a daily. No, I don't see any way that you would run. Well, hang on. Let's see. Let's take a peek. Now you got me interested. If we're going to do this, we would have to do the entire leg. Okay? So, all right. We're going to go, well, all right. Go drawing tools, price extension. There's the swing high. And there's the swing low. So no, well, this price that we're at right now, that doesn't qualify as a fib extension if we pull the entire leg. And you really do have to pull the entire leg because, I mean, you could pull just this leg, but you can't pull this one or this one or this one. Because otherwise you'll be like the Elliott guys who never know where you start. Where do you start counting the waves? I mean, you can always tell after the fact, but you got to know ahead of time. So these are the rules as taught to me, and these are the rules that I stay with. You can either measure the last leg on whatever time frame you're looking at, the last leg or the entire leg. Okay. Now, again, someone could argue, well, the entire leg goes back to the beginning of the markets. Okay, you can only fit so much data on a screen. And I realized I could push this out to weekly and monthly, but then you get into ranges that are so large, they're not going to be of any use to you. They're not going to be beneficial. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why it will never serve you as a standalone trading methodology, but it will work very well for you as a confirmation tool. Okay. Now, I spent a couple years trying to make it a standalone methodology. Very frustrating. Costs a lot of money. It just won't work. But the way I layer it in now, it does help. I don't know, it doesn't really change anything. Maybe it gives me a little more confidence when I'm in a trade that I know other people are looking at this number, and so just that alone helps it to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, I'm not denying the existence of Fibonacci in nature. It's everywhere. And if it's in a seashell and in our DNA, then it would be in the markets too. That's my belief. So, but I don't want to get too deep into that. The fib extensions off the entire leg, you got one up here at 1713, and then you got one back here, it looks like it's 1648. Okay. So this area here, that was not it. Okay. And let's see. If we just pull the last leg, we overshot that, I'm guessing. Let's just see. Swing low. We can still work with it. So grab the Fibonacci extension tool. Go from swing low to swing high to right there. And see, this still falls in the middle here. Good to know you're thinking, though. That's a great thing. Okay, I can't put it off anymore, guys. I gotta go. I gotta go down to the government office. You're welcome, Ken. Oh, let's see. Scroll up. Ha, that's funny, Ken. All right. Ken says, you don't have to do this just for me. You're avoiding the birth certificate thing. Nah, I'll go. Well, anyway, that's it. I've already told you now. What's the difference between typing in @ES and ESU3? That's a great question, Dan. Okay. Let me show you guys. @ES is the continuous chart. You always hear us talk about rollover. Okay, 4 times a year, the S&P 500 E-mini rolls over. In other words, we start a new contract. Right now, we're trading the September contract. The continuous chart, all that does is it means you don't ever have to change your symbol on the S&P. If you type, so what we're looking at now is the man-made continuous chart where they're all just blended together. But if you go ESU3, you are looking at just, and oh, let me show you where you see the real difference. You'll see the difference here on a daily chart. Okay, see how much data I've got with the continuous chart @ES? See all this beautiful data going back? Now watch what happens if I type in ESU3. See how my data gets really thin? I mean, I can really only see how the data just thins out. It doesn't even want to go back there. But if I go @ES, in other words, all the contracts are just tagged one right onto the other after the other after the other. Okay. So that's the difference. Great question. Important to know. And also, on some months, like right now, if you go and type in @ZS for soybeans, you'll get the continuous contract on the soybeans, and it's showing the front month price, which is August. but we're actually trading November because that's where the volume is. So that it's not an issue on the indices, but in the grains, be careful using the continuous symbol. Okay, the grains you're better off. In fact, I'm just going to suggest in the grains always use the actual contract month. Right now in beans, even though August is trading, the most volume is in November, so you want to use ZSX3. Charles says, Twitter email notifications. You have a page on Facebook. If you would be a person, post tweets as a person, and allow others to be close friends, they would get an email when you post something new. We do have a Facebook page, Charles. Quack wants to know if it'll take a couple times to break out of this double top on the S&P. Well, here's the thing, Quack. On the S&P, we got a daily top. Now, I don't have the right platform to show you, but if you go on the blog or just Google CFRN triple top. Well, I guess I could do that, couldn't I? Google CFRN triple top. The biggest triple top in trading history. That's this guy right here. So we have this triple top, okay? This goes all the way back to 1998. See, we had a high here, 2000, and high here, 2007, 2008. Now, I snapped this shot back when price was at 1544. What day did I post this? I posted this March 9th of this year. So April, May, June. This is 4 months ago. 4 months ago that I snapped this, and price was at 1544. Today price is at 1683. We've gone up another 140 points. So I should snap that shot again and put it on the blog. But see, when we were here, we hadn't quite got to this high right here. So you can see 1600 right there. So we're at 1683. So we're at a new all-time high. Now that's looking across a monthly or weekly chart. So layered on top of this huge triple top, we have this daily double top. Okay? Some would say that's quite perilous and that we could go much, much lower. If you read last night's blog post, I stay away from trying to predict the future. When I send out because you know most of my tweets, they say, soybeans, consider being long above this price or short above this price. Hey, wait a minute. That sounds like a guy that doesn't know what's going to happen next. I don't. I have no idea. Neither do you. Neither does anybody else who's selling you something that makes you believe you can. It's not possible. Read the blog post last night. I go into great detail, and I use some very compelling numbers. I promise you, now, you know I want you to read the book, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, but you would have to pay money for that or go download the audiobook. So read the blog post from last night. Think about those numbers that I give you in the blog post. I'm telling you, if you've not read Trading in the Zone, if you go read the blog post I wrote last night, number one, it will forever change. It will forever change the way you think about trading, and then it will make you hungry to go read the book. All right? Read the blog post, change the way you think about trading, go get the book. All right? Okay. Dan says, oh, let me scroll up. Somebody else put something in. Charles, I have a Facebook page, Dwayne Reeves. But see, all of my friends and family members, they don't want to be burdened with a million tweets, a million posts about the markets. So, why do you, oh yeah, I think you're one of the guys. Why is it you want an email anyway? Because you got to go check your email. So I mean, if you go check your email, why can't you just, that's always confused me. Why do people want the tweets as emails? Why is that? I don't know. Can you tell me, Charles? I mean, your reason will probably be different from somebody else's, but JM just shared the formula for figuring out fib extensions, but that's really kind of complicated to use the formula when you've got the tool built right into your platform. You just grab it and go. I mean, it's just like Fibonacci retracements. You can, let me just show you. See, I can sit down, I can write down this price low and this price high, and I can use a calculator to calculate the Fibonacci price retracements, or I can let the computer do the work for me right there. Boom. Now I know where the 24, the 38, the 50, and the 62 are. So, I mean, if you want to do it by hand, and in fact, there's calculators all across the internet, Fibonacci calculators, but that's kind of old school because it wasn't always like this. Not all platforms always had tools that would allow you to draw Fibonacci retracements and extensions. But now it's a modern convenience. So either way you do it, you'll arrive at the same number as long as you do it correctly. So thanks for sharing that, Jim. Dan says, when did you decide to quit your day job and do this full time, or have you always been a trader? Great question. I owned a company with 50 employees that, we were a company that provided jobs for the disabled, the disadvantaged, people recovering from alcohol and drugs, people fresh out of prison, the homeless, all the people that nobody else would give a job, we gave them jobs. We helped them become self-sufficient, productive members of society. We helped them become the fathers and mothers that God created them to be, the husbands and wives that God created them to be. And it was a wonderful business turned ministry. That's how I actually got into the ministry, is through the business. It dawned on me one day that this business I had birthed was more ministry, even though, let's see, we were a for-profit company. We made money, good money. My employees made good money. I'll never forget my first employee, who, again, he met one of those criteria I just listed off. Made $100,000. We gave him a big trophy. He was the first person to enter the 100K club. And wow, wow, yeah, it was good times, man, good times. And God just blessed us. He blessed our socks off. And we took the profits from that company. That's how we built the orphanage in Africa. That's how we opened Cassie's House, our home for battered women and abused children. That's how we opened Cypress House, our home for men recovering from alcohol and drugs. All of those things, okay? See, ministry costs money. And the way the church, and this has so much to do with John Garfield's book, Releasing Kings, okay? It talks about ministry, and ministry costs money, and so many successful businessmen who know how to make money get confused and think because they've committed their life to God that they got to go stand in the pulpit and preach. No. 1,000 times no. Last thing God needs is another broke preacher. If you're a businessman and you're gifted to make money, then you need to do what God gifted you to do. Okay? There's plenty of preachers out there that need your financial support so that they can do what God actually called them to do. That's the whole idea in a nutshell behind Releasing Kings. Okay? Those of us who've chosen to serve God, who know how to run businesses and know how to make money, we were living under condemnation that because we wanted to, live our lives sold out for God, that we had to give up our business and go stand in a pulpit and do something we were not created to do. Trust me, how do I know? I have a church. Some of you don't even know. I have an old historic church in downtown Phoenix. I let a friend of mine go in there every Sunday morning and preach. I don't. thank God I came to the realization that that's not what he called me to do. So the fallout is I still have the church. It's a beautiful church too, man. Oh my goodness, so awesome inside. Big soaring ceilings, cathedral with the chandeliers. It's just gorgeous. So, but anyway, but my friend has church there every Sunday morning. Anyway, my business, I sold it to one of my employees because I wanted to spend more time focused on ministry, and at the same time I was learning how to trade, and at the same time I launched the radio station. And so then the radio station and the trading kind of stole my attention for a while, and all the rest of my life I'm still planning to get back to it. I just put it on hold for, you know, like a day, and that became a week, and that became a month, and I still have this whole other life that I'm supposed to get back to once I get the radio and the trading thing going in the right direction. So that's my story, Dan. Thanks for asking. Charles says, then don't have them sign up as close friends. Charles, you didn't answer my question. Oh, I have email on continuously and get a sound whenever something new comes through. Well, you can do that with the Twitter as well. I like email tweets because I look at emails, not blogs. I'm not sure what you're referring to about a blog, JM. I mean, I have a blog, but the tweets doesn't have anything to do with the blog. Oh, you're welcome, Dan. Okay, guys. I hope you guys do get that email thing sorted out someday. I really do. I don't have an answer for you. I tried it with the Twilight thing for you. That didn't work. So anyway, maybe someday a solution will fall out of the sky for us. I looked at another computer program the other day that says it can do it, but I haven't had a chance to fully investigate it. So, I mean, I would love to do it for you guys if it's something you really want. And if somebody finds a way to make it happen easily. But the last thing I need to do is sign up for another thing. I got to go post. I'm already posting. I already post on Facebook. That tweets for me. Then I got to go to Seeking Alpha. Then I got to go to Stock Twits. And then I've got other places that get automated. And so I don't think I want another place. I got to go to post something. So if you can figure out a way, Charles, that I don't have to go over and physically put, in other words, if I post it on the CFRN Facebook page, if it automatically posts to that other page, which will then automatically send you out an email, I'll do that. Sure. No reason not to. Okay? All right, guys, I can't put it off any longer. I got to go. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.
We're going to teach y'all a song.